All right.
One, two.
One, two, one, two. All right, let's do this, man. And we're back.
All right. Welcome to Tatay Time. This is Papaloy.
Papa
All
Ben.
right. Exploring the world of fatherhood with philosophy, science, and art and spirituality. Welcome.
Yeah, it's been a while, man.
Yeah.
What's been going on? Do you want to do any let's do a life update before we get into the main topic of today, which is going to be homeschooling, which is something I'm very excited to talk about and been diving into it. But before we get into it, yeah, what's been going on, man? Like, how do you feel about life lately?
Well,
Yeah.
for a start, I think this is the first time we're sober, both while doing this. No alcohol, whatever.
Yeah, nothing at all.
Well, life's good. I mean, everything's good. Um, I've been what do you call this? Doing a lot of baby stuff as
Yeah.
usual. It's not a baby anymore.
Yeah, in terms of the fatherhood, like where do you see yourself right now in terms of that?
Well, now that she's about to go to school, I think
Ah,
by next year, but she's going to summer school this year, so this should be interesting
okay,
because I've
okay.
I've been training her for a while now. Just the basic stuff, reading letters, writing,
Holding a
yeah,
pencil,
holding a
holding crayons and
pencil,
stuff. Motor
tracing, yeah,
skills.
motor skills, identifying stuff, words.
Yeah, are you using any kind of certain approach, or are you just kind of like just doing things that you notice she enjoys? Like how do you like specifically go to Montessori websites or anything like that? Like are you doing anything specific or it's just kind of like
Not really. I did buy this book for preschoolers at least, and then just followed some of the activities there. Just try to make it
okay.
fun. But
Activity books.
yeah, activity books, but at the same time, I try to do a little bit of freestyling. Like we go out in the garden, identify some plants, insects. I just bring out a magnifying glass with her, make a rainbow with water and some mirrors and lights, just the
Mm,
usual stuff, just to make get the her brain being active
sure.
and curious. That's the best one.
Get her into the real world.
Yeah, yeah. Just rather than watching a lot of videos. I mean, she does. I mean, the
Sure,
doctor
sure.
said not, but
Yeah, yeah.
sometimes you can't help it. I'm
It's
guilty.
difficult, man. It's difficult, especially with your guys' situation. You're
Mm.
working,
Yeah.
the wife is working. So, although, you do have family members around, it's not like you don't always want to put them in that spot where they feel like they have to watch your
Oh,
kid,
yeah, for
it's
sure.
like you don't really
Yeah.
want to burden people with
Yeah.
your needs, right? So,
They got their own
although
lives
yeah,
too.
in the culture here, like,
That's pretty normal. Yeah.
it's pretty normal
Mm.
and it's sometimes it's overly expected by the parents to
Mm.
for their mother or their the
Yeah.
Lola or the Lola to watch
Or
their
siblings
kid, yeah,
even.
the siblings.
Mm.
If where I grew up, that was very different. Like you would never expect your brother or your sister or even your mom to be like, yeah, watch my kid, I'm just gonna like
Uh,
leave him there. But here, man, it's so convenient.
yeah, right.
It's really a great part of the culture. I've come to appreciate that,
Mm.
especially where we were in that
Yeah.
age, when our child was in that age. I was also working, the wife was working, and
Mm.
it was for me, it was part-time. But those hours where I needed to, focus on some work, it was definitely a great thing to be able to rely on the wife's mother to be like, can you
Mm.
watch her just for a few hours? And
Yeah.
she was like, yeah, of course.
They would even volunteer sometimes,
Yeah.
right?
It's like bring her anytime,
Yeah.
just cooking for her, you know what I mean? It's awesome. So that's a great thing about the culture here. And
Yeah.
I think that's an unfortunate side of the American culture where it's
Mm.
become kind of like a joke where, it's on sitcoms and,
Yeah. Yeah.
the in-laws, it's
Mm.
like, oh, the dreaded in-laws
It's
are
almost like a
here.
burden even
Yeah, yeah,
for
yeah.
to visit the in-laws or to
Yeah, my in-laws are great,
yeah.
man. Like
Right.
they're
So
great
so are
people.
mine too. And I love
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
visiting them
They're
or
awesome.
having them around here. And they every time they come to visit.
Yeah, so you're going to start it's not really like school, right? Like formal education school, is
Mm.
it? Is that
No, it's just a summer program from
summer program?
yeah,
Okay.
our friend owns the school actually here
Yeah.
in
Okay.
Cagayan de Oro. Shout out to
Nice.
Miko, and it's one of
Yeah.
the best schools here in Cagayan de Oro for preschoolers.
Mm.
Lifetime Study Center. I'm not being paid,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
No sponsor,
no
but
sponsored. Yeah, but it's a great school. Just for the summer, just to get her to feel how it feels being in an environment where she's got classmates,
What do
going
you
there.
what do you consider it, or why do you consider it to be a good school in the first place? Like since you're looking in that
Mm.
direction.
Well, based on track record, most of the people I know send their kids there,
Mm.
lifetime, and it's been around for quite some time. There are a lot of schools here in Cagayan for
But
preschoolers.
is it like a teacher
Yeah,
ratio,
especially that
student
one
ratio
because the
kind of
student to
thing?
teacher ratio is really good. There's only like
Yeah.
a few students per teacher. They're really limited. That's what I like about that
Mm.
school as well. So,
Yeah.
and in terms of development, they're pretty good. They've got a lot of graduates already who are now in. Actually, some of them are in college or even um, working. If I'm not mistaken, it's been that
Mm.
long, I guess.
Yeah. They've been around for a while.
Yeah, for a while.
Hmm.
So other than that, it's just a 2 month thing. And then because she's still 3, so her age is still not there yet. I prefer to be 4 because on the calendar she was born in December. It would be like we call in Bisaya Apiki. Like
Mm. Yeah.
yeah, it's not there yet, but for preparatory, fine.
Hmm.
So but
Hmm.
next year I'm not sure yet on what the my our decision would be on where or what
Mm.
method. So that's what we're going to be exploring tonight.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think
Mm,
what you mentioned earlier about the student to ratio being
mm,
pretty low, I think that's quite important. It's definitely a point we're going to be touching on later, because we were hoping for that as well. When you go to, if you're going to pay more
mm,
for a school, one of the expectations would be that your kid has higher quality education,
yeah.
right? And that would, one of the factors of that is not just the quality of what they're teaching, is the attention, because there are less students in
Mm,
the per teacher, right?
per
Like
teacher.
that would be a good indicator.
Yeah.
Like if you have 5 students for one teacher, that's pretty good.
Mm,
But you're gonna be paying a lot,
yeah,
right? At
for
least that's the
sure.
expectation.
Yeah.
That's the expectation. 'Cause
Normal here would be like 30-ish
yeah,
somewhere. And
yeah,
that's not even public school. How much
that's not
more?
even public school.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And
So
do you have any idea actually what it is in public school? I didn't even look that up
I'm
actually,
I'm
but
not sure with preschool, but with high school or grade school, oh man, that's like a handful for
I,
one teacher. That's one of the problems actually
yeah.
with the public school system here. It's the
Oh yeah.
ratio.
It's so bad that there are kids here. If you go driving or walking around at 6 in the morning,
Mm,
you will see students going to public school.
mm,
And that is sad, dude. Can you imagine 6 in the morning, you're already going to
to school,
school?
yeah.
This is a
Yeah,
reality.
that's normal
Like
here in the
in the
Philippines. Yeah.
local public
Yeah.
school, you can see that very, very easily.
Mm,
And you just can't help but think about Grabby. Like people haven't barely started waking up to go to work, right? Like just barely started working, getting up to start their workday and, eat breakfast, do their morning routines. And these kids are already walking to school. Like, grabe ba, Eloy kayo.
and not to mention the number of hours you spend in school because you come in early and you go home late. You notice
Yeah,
that
yeah,
even
yeah, yeah.
in America, what time do you guys usually start? Like
Well, I didn't have any tutoring going on, so
mm,
but after school would be like
3?
2:30, 3 o'clock,
Yeah, right.
and then you're on your way home.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a harsh reality of what is normal school culture here,
Mm.
is that you can be in school for like 12 hours,
Something like
or
that.
or
Yeah.
doing schoolwork for 12 hours,
Mm.
and then coming home and still doing
Still
homework.
doing homework,
Like,
tutor even.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think we're starting to dive into the topic, but let's go back to life updates. So
How about you? What's been going on lately?
um well, it's been interesting to think about the big picture things that are happening, and we're very, I don't know, it's kind of weird sometimes. I think to myself, like, how did you and I get on very similar paths? Like
Mm.
where we're thinking about going in the next year or this year, next year,
Yeah.
go talking about migrating
Yeah.
to US. That was like we had never planned it,
Yeah,
but
that wasn't even an
somehow,
option before.
yeah, yeah, not for me. And that's it's interesting because I just had a conversation with the wife about that before.
Mm,
Not before. We just had a conversation recently where I was telling her, when she had when our daughter was 2 years old and starting, and the wife was like going to the hospital so that she can get experience, so that she can eventually go do her NCLEX and
mm,
and then go abroad. I was in a totally different mental state at that time. Like I
mm,
couldn't imagine leaving my mother here, and then because I had just
mm.
gotten here like not too long before
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
and to I had left a lot of things in my where I have formerly living in Hawaii,
Mm,
and for her to have plans, I knew that she had plans when I met her to work in the US. So it's not like I was trying to hold her back, but
mm,
so I was fully supportive of what she was doing. But personally, I didn't see us going as a family. And, 7 years later, it's totally different now. It's like I
mm,
can't see us not
yeah,
going together. You know what
yeah.
I mean? So I think it's interesting because around that time is when the solar eclipse happened.
Mm,
Um, so I don't, I'm not too into the what do you call it? The astrology kind of
mm,
stuff. But there are people that I was listening to recently. They were talking about the first phase of that was like the first part of the this Jupiter, uh some kind of alignment with Jupiter,
mm,
and that solar eclipse at that time was the first part of it. And now the one that just passed is the end of that phase, as it's referred to. I can't explain it, but the way this person was explaining it was like that if you had things that you were not able to manifest during that time period,
mm.
it might come back. And I was like, wow, that's really crazy because this is exactly what's happening. It's like we were talking about going abroad, and the wife was going to go, and now timing kaayo, it's happening again. And it's
Mm.
not like we planned it to happen this year,
Mm.
It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna try this again in 7 years
Oh,
or something.
so it was
So
suddenly on the table.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know, like if there's anything to this astrology stuff. Like I'm not
Mm.
into it, but it was like, there's
Just
something.
impeccable
Yeah,
timing or
yeah,
something.
impeccable timing, right? Like I don't believe in a coincidence, right?
Yeah.
So I stopped believing in coincidence a long time ago.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird, like the way these things are aligning during these times, and things are happening, reopening. It's like the person was explaining, the manifestation is coming back to be able to finish something that didn't occur within that
Mm.
first that phase of that those two solar eclipses. So it's really for me it was really hit it, it really hit
Yeah.
home
Yeah,
to
because that
hear
was
to that.
7 years ago, right?
Yeah.
The first one, the great in America. That was in America.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And this the Great American Eclipse, 2024. That was when was that? April? Was
Yeah,
it April?
it just
April
happened.
7th or
Yeah,
8th?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah. Yeah,
remember
yeah, yeah.
it's
Yeah,
probably a
April
map.
8th. It was on the 8th,
Yeah.
man. That was why it was so trippy because, the number 8 is I'm not into numerology either.
Yeah.
Like I don't know anything about it, but people are really like, "Oh
Yeah.
my God, it's on the 8th."
Yeah. From even from the Catholic perspective, it's like the Immaculate Conception. Dung dung dung
Yeah.
dung.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was pretty awesome though. So
Yeah, it's a straight, like all these things, like, I guess we're gonna see each other somewhere over there. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like
hopefully, I mean, if things are all well and all our plans will push through, then we'll see what happens there.
yeah. Another odd thing that's occurring right now is that we're going on a trip to Hawaii.
Hawaii back home, yeah.
Yeah. And the way it's I like, there are things that you don't understand in the moment. Maybe I'll
Mhm.
understand it 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or something like that. But this was not a planned trip. Like the original plan was for our family to was basically to try to get together and have
Mhm.
like a mini reunion because I haven't seen my brothers
Yeah.
together, we haven't been together in probably over a decade, right? And so
In the mainland,
in the
you mean?
mainland,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So my brothers are out in California, and then we have one brother that's in Hawaii on the Big Island.
Mm.
And so the plan was to go out and see them. And I was really hoping that the kids, our daughter
Mm.
and his kids would
The
get their
cousins.
cousins. So
Yeah.
that, our daughter's really been wanting to see them, and it didn't work out. So what ended up happening, I mean, what ended up happening is that we're still going to go to Hawaii, but we're
Hawaii.
not going to see my brother because
Mm.
he's on his way out to move to another
Mm.
place. So it's also a weird thing for me to be going, of all the places that we could have gone in the
Yeah.
world, we're going back to where I was before I moved here. And that
Yeah.
was totally unplanned, you know what I mean? Like we weren't actually even supposed to be in Honolulu. We were going to go to Big Island. Yeah,
Yeah.
we weren't planning to hang out in Oahu, in
Yeah.
Honolulu. The whole attraction was to get the kids together to see
Mm.
Big Island. We were
Yeah.
talking about Mauna Kea,
Yeah. Yeah.
go do the observatory thing
Mm.
and just see that island. We weren't going to hang around in Waikiki and do all that stuff.
Mm.
But that's how it's turning out. And I didn't even plan that out.
It
Like I
just
didn't want it.
happened or
It's
something.
just like I don't understand it. So, it's like a lot of things that are happening right now. There's just like things are being presented, and then it's like you just kind of have to, I don't know, some people call it the divine plan,
Mm.
or it's your gut instinct, you follow your intuition or something,
Mm.
whatever you want to consider it or call it.
Mm.
It's just like putting one foot in front of the next, but at the same time it's difficult because there are things that you don't understand or you don't know, that like we're talking about this homeschool thing,
Mm.
and this is a lot of unknown for us as a
Yeah. Yeah.
family. For me, I've never done anything with homeschool, but the gut feeling I have about it is, man, it's the way to go.
Mm.
There's a reason why these things are being presented to us, and I feel very positive about it. There are obviously
Mm.
things that you're going to have a gut feeling with that aren't positive, that you don't want to do. And so those are also things where you have to decide, is it my fear? Is it my past experiences? Is it my ego? Is it something that's holding me back? Or is this actually something that I should follow? And that's
Mm.
difficult to do
Yeah.
sometimes. And so that's a reason why we're having this discussion today about homeschooling, because it's a big unknown for us,
Mm.
and not just personally but as a family, right? It's a big decision.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I'm happy to be discussing that today. And yeah, there's a lot of, I feel like there's a lot of that for me right now, where there's like a lot of things in front of me, like right in front of my nose, and it's just like a matter of trying to filter out my own fears, my own
Mm.
self-doubts, because I definitely have them, man. Right,
Yeah.
when I think about this homeschooling stuff, like there are times where I'm like, fuck, dude, like I'm all for it, but I'm thinking sometimes like, damn, do I really know what I'm
Yeah.
doing? Is this really the thing? Like, I don't know, dude. Because I could be a fucking idiot when it comes to teaching, you know what I mean? Like, but I think when we'll talk about some of these examples, when the things that I've seen so far in the schools, that kind of lean me towards going to that decision. But yeah, so the life updates right now are kind of really all over the place, but
Yeah.
so we're gonna try to pull that all together in our
Mm.
topic today
Yeah.
of homeschooling.
I mean, even for me, like, it's pretty interesting because just from watching people or you or others like doing those decisions, since I'm watching, since I'm getting there, like having my daughter go to school, so at least I can observe, so I can take some notes,
Yeah, yeah.
inputs from you guys.
Yeah. And there are other people that I try to learn from as well. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing as a parent, to be able to take notes from other people's experiences. I mean, that's just how we learn, right? I
Yeah.
mean, outside of the school,
Mm.
I think we find inspiration and we find experiences through each other, right? That's why
Mm.
so many people like to read biographies,
Yeah.
Because it's like you can learn
Learn
so
from,
much
yeah,
just from reading about somebody else's life who's
especially
even dead,
yeah,
right?
especially from people who live their lives like with let's say the people we admire. At least we read their biographies or their histories and learn from them. So exactly.
Yeah, so I got a couple things to I prepared. So as a just
Nice.
kind of an opening statement
All right.
before we dive into some of the topics.
Shoot.
So as we embark on a journey towards holistic education, let us consider the transformative power of homeschooling. In an era where the consciousness of individual needs and personal growth is paramount, homeschooling offers a tailored educational experience that nurtures the whole child, mind, body, and spirit. It isn't just about academic learning, it's about cultivating a child's unique strengths and passions in a nurturing environment that traditional classrooms simply cannot cater to. Homeschooling allows us to transcend the one size fits all approach of the industrial age education system, fostering an atmosphere where children can learn at their own pace in tune with their personal needs and interests. This individualized approach not only enhances learning, but also promotes self awareness and emotional intelligence. Moreover, this educational path empowers parents to reforge the sacred bond of family. It enables families to come together as cohesive units, learning not just from books, but from the rich tapestry of real world experiences. In embracing homeschooling, we are not stepping back from society. Rather, we are enhancing our community interactions through deliberate, meaningful engagement. So let us open our minds to the possibilities that homeschooling offers, a pathway to enlighten and empower our children, fostering not only knowledge, but wisdom, and not just for school, but for life.
Amen.
Yeah. So
That was
that's
some pretty inspiring intro there.
yeah, so I wanted to that touches on a lot of things that we'll get into.
Mm.
And I think Um, I don't know. What do you think we should do? Should we go on the positives, the negatives, or could you want to do like a little bit
Yeah,
of
yeah, that would be good. I mean, but first, it would be awesome if you could tell us what made you interested in the first place in with homeschool. How did it begin? Your based on what your observations with.
sure, sure,
Right.
yeah, yeah. So that's an interesting thing too. Um, so this had we're going into the fourth grade next school season,
Mm.
and this had never come to my mind until just I think it was about 3, 4 months ago, earlier this year. So, people like us, we like to browse the secondhand bookshop,
Mm.
like from time to
Yeah,
time. And so I'm in the bookshop over there at Kit Guy,
book sale.
book sale store.
Mm.
And I come across these two books. Okay. And I'm like,
Nice.
this one caught my attention, the 4 hour school day.
Mm.
And it caught my attention because excuse me, I'm familiar with the 4 hour work week, which
Mm.
is the Tim Ferriss book.
Mm.
I don't know if you've heard
I
about that.
haven't,
It's an older book.
okay.
It was like one of my first audiobooks back in the early 2000s. And when I first tried to sign up with Audible, anyway, that's a side thing. But so I saw this book, and it's the 4 hour school day. And it's actually written by a Christian educator,
What's her name?
uh,
Brenda Wilson.
Dorinda Wilson.
I
Yes, the 4 hour school day. And I was like, oh, that sounds like a spin-off of the 4 hour work week.
Mm.
So and the 4 hour work week was about like kind of trying to find, I guess, more meaningful free time, I
Mm.
guess, to minimize the traditional, a 40 hour work week, and then just kind of like doing that,
Right.
and then that's just like I'm not even going to try to explain that book.
Yeah.
You know, there are,
Just read it, people.
yeah, yeah. But that's why I saw this and I was like, oh, what's this about?
Mm,
And then and then it says how you and your kids can thrive in the homeschool life. And I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. You know, because I want to know more about educational topics. Like during
okay.
that time, I was kind of interested in like how to enhance my kids' educational experiences. Like
Mm,
we were buying science books where you can do home experiments and
yeah.
things like that. You know, I was like, those were the kind of things I was looking for in the bookshop, you
Yeah.
know, the
Yeah.
DIY
Ah,
science experiments kind
got
of
it.
stuff. And like, you know, if I've bought several of those.
Mm,
And so this sounded interesting. And I was like, oh, so you know, I read the back and it's, you know, discover you do have what it takes to homeschool your children. So it's a
mm,
book about empowering parents
okay.
to take the consideration of doing this option.
Okay.
And in the same day I come across so I bought these two books because I in that same search I found this one, which is Real Lives 11 Teenagers Who Don't Go to School.
11
Yeah,
teenagers.
11
Okay.
teenagers who don't go to school. And the picture is black and white
Mm,
because this book is from the 90s,
the
dude.
90s.
1994.
Whoa.
Yeah. This is an awesome, very inspirational book. It's obviously about 11 teenagers who took themselves or maybe grew up in a homeschooling in a homeschool
Mm,
environment. And they even go over unschooling, which is also very interesting because
unschooling.
there are levels to this homeschooling stuff. I
Okay.
had no idea until I really got into the material.
Okay.
But we won't get too into, I don't think unschooling will be too much of a topic, but just so that
Mm,
we understand the context of what we're going to be talking about today, homeschooling is essentially taking the school structure into your household.
okay.
Okay. So the one that we're considering right now is still under DepEd.
Okay.
Okay, so the homeschooling is certified. There are providers that can give you the curriculum of
Mm,
DepEd and still support you in the home setting. Okay,
okay.
so that's the homeschooling that we're talking about. But this book opened my eyes to unschooling, which is essentially uh no academic structure whatsoever.
Mm,
Okay, and it's really inspirational because these families, because of course these are teenagers, so they have to have the support of their parents to be doing these things, and there are situations where it's really called for, like there's a teenager who lives in a remote area, so the schools are very limited. It's far from where they live. You know, they live out in the countryside
okay.
somewhere, and that it's very inconvenient for them to go to the school. So
Mm.
then,
Are they homestead too? Or
there is an example of homesteading. Yeah, there's a real story of this teenage girl who grows up on a ranch
okay.
and does that kind of stuff. Yeah, so those stories do it.
Interesting.
There are
Yeah.
there are other ones where it's very kind of like they had the bad experiences within their school, like they were bullied.
As
You know, they
usual.
had
Mm.
their teachers were not treating them well,
Peer
right?
pressure and all
Peer
that.
pressure,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So those kind of things, you know, were in this book as well. And
Mm.
wow, man, I gotta say that it's really eye-opening. I don't know if some of the things that they talk about are possible here in the Philippines because there are things like GED
Mhm.
in the US
Yeah.
where you actually don't need to graduate from a school. You just take the GED test,
Mm.
right? And then so there are really great stories like that. And some of the things that we'll talk about, like whether homeschoolers are even suitable for college, you know,
Mm.
those are interesting topics as well. But one thing we can go to this book directly is whoops, situation myself here is the top 5 benefits of homeschooling.
Okay.
So we can start there. And then I also have a list of things that we can talk about that are kind of like concerns. You know, we can also go over that because
Okay.
I don't want to be totally biased about this because like this is a very exciting thing. So sometimes I feel like I'm biased, and so I'm hoping that you can be like a little bit of opposition
Mm.
on this obviously you're interested in the topic as
Yeah.
well, but I also want to like have someone test me on the way I'm thinking about
Yeah.
some of these things.
Well,
So
I'm a bit biased too because I'm for it personally,
yeah.
but I've got questions though because I
Oh
still
yeah.
haven't decided yet. Or
Yeah.
we still, it's a decision that we both of us must will make.
Yeah.
But for
Yeah.
now, yeah, I'm very much interested in homeschooling.
Yeah,
So
we should definitely get into that and
mm,
like how does a family decide? Because I think those are important things to consider as well when you're transitioning or when you're making the decision as a family. Because I think that's the right way to make it
yeah.
instead of just forcing everyone into the situation. Try to take an approach where everyone kind of understands what's going on,
Mm,
including the student, the child,
yeah.
right? Um, so I'll go ahead and read
All
the
right.
big points, and then we can go over each of these, or we can just skip to any of them that sound more interesting to you
No,
than
go
the
for it.
others.
Take your time.
Yeah. So the first one, the top five benefits of homeschooling is home education enables kids to learn at their own pace. Okay, so that's number one. The second
These are
ben
the top five
yeah,
benefits, right? Okay.
according to
Okay.
Durenda Wilson in her book, The 4 Hour School Week.
Okay. So top five benefit
Yeah.
number one is
The enables kids to learn at their own
at
pace.
their own pace, right?
Okay, so number two is home education allows freedom for interest-led learning. Number three, home education gives kids strong roots. Number four is home education is efficient. And number five is home education prepares kids for real life.
Okay.
Mm. Do you want to start with any particular one or you
Yeah,
want
I
to
mean,
just
for
just start it?
starters, I with number five, what was that?
Uh, home education prepares kids for real life.
Yeah, because I've been hearing something like this is on the negative side with a lot of people with their feedback, not feedbacks, but people who are resistant to homeschooling is
Yeah,
that it doesn't prepare them for real life because you'd be shielding them from the real world according to some people I know
yeah,
that when I talk about homeschooling, the fear is that they wouldn't be prepared because they wouldn't interact with classmates, with real world classroom environment, dealing with people, with teachers, with the
yeah.
school system. So
Mhm.
um what do you think they since they mentioned it.
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
So I think you touched on a couple things there, and then so let's try to break that down a little bit.
mm,
In terms of the being prepared for real life, there is actually research to show how the homeschoolers are well prepared for not just professional work, but college life as well. And in terms of the socializing, it's so from what I understand, it's a misconception.
okay.
Because you oh, okay, so I think it there's when people criticize the homeschooling as not having any socialization, okay, there's a couple things about that. So one, I think people are imagining that the kid is in their room or in their house
Mm.
all day,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, for and just doing schooling like in the classroom,
Yeah,
but
like
by
doing assign, yeah,
themselves.
like doing homework or something, right?
And this would be definitely a misconception
Okay.
because um the kids have more time to do things that they are interested in.
Mm.
So there's an example that I mentioned earlier, like one of the teenagers, she would spend her time training horses. Okay, so she got so good at it, she would actually take people on tours
Ooh.
as a teenager,
As a teenager.
I think she was like 14 years old, and she's earning
Uh,
money. She's making money, dude. She got so good
mm,
at training horses that she could lead the tours by herself. Okay, take people, and they would according to the story that she wrote, because each of these teenagers wrote their own essays.
mm,
And so she said that people were surprised about how young she was because she was so knowledgeable about the, the trail, the horses, because she followed her interest,
Okay.
right? And so um the thought that a kid is not going to be socialized, think about this also. How often do you think you were scolded in school for talking to your classmates?
Countless times.
Countless, right?
Yeah.
So what makes a classroom such a great place to socialize? When the teacher is telling you to sit down, shut up, and listen, right? When you talk to your classmate, you get in trouble,
Yeah.
right? So for people to say that the classroom is such a good place for socializing is total nonsense. Okay, so let's say you're on a normal school day without tutoring. Okay, you're in your school for 7 hours. Okay, minimum here. So you're in your school minimum 7 hours. You get maybe two 15-minute breaks, just like work.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you get your lunch. And so half of your lunch you're eating. Okay, so maybe while you eat, you chica chica, right? Because that's something that as a third grader, this is the last year that we get to go inside the lunch, the canteen, and the kids do talk during lunch. And, sometimes that's what causes them to take so long to eat. So okay, you get two 15-minute breaks, so you get 30 minutes, and then let's just say you get a good solid 30 minutes of playtime during lunch because you have to eat.
Yeah, recess. Oh, yeah, that's
The
recess.
breaks,
50
the recess, yeah.
breaks is 1 hour for lunch,
Recess,
maybe.
right? Yeah, yeah. So maybe if you're lucky, you get to play before class or after class.
Plus, not to mention if you get to spend time in detention after school,
Right,
more
right.
time lost
Yeah,
for discipline.
yeah. So that's the thing, right? Like just because you na imong mga tapad mga classmates, but you don't get to sit there and just like talk for 7 hours. You're gonna get sent to the principal's office if
Yeah.
you're talking for 7 hours, dude. Like you are not socializing.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but it's just not the reality in the classroom, right? So it's for people to say like
I see.
you're not socializing in homeschool would be assuming that the kid is only in the house 24/7.
Just studying. Yeah, I totally get the point that it's a misconception because even if I try to think about it myself, like with the people I know, not personally, but people I've listened to who are homeschooled or have their children homeschooled, some of them turn out to be like great people, and even they're really excelled.
Yeah.
They're in whatever field they are right now, whether it's in media or in corporate or arts. Because I've listened to a lot of people now at this point. Some are podcasters, some are in social media. Turned out to be pretty good. I didn't even know they were homeschooled. Some of the people that I listened to. Well, one of this belongs to Gen Z, I think. Brett Cooper, if you're familiar.
Okay.
Yeah, I think she's in the Daily Wire. She's
You
a
might have
nice
sent me
lady.
a clip before.
Yeah, she's pretty young, probably early 20s, and she's homeschooled. I just found that out like a few months ago. I was so surprised, and she actually told her story about one of those misconceptions is that like homeschooled kids are weirdos or something.
Yeah. Probably back in the day.
There's a
Okay.
misconception, yeah.
Yeah. One thing that was talked about in the story with these teenagers that there were states in the US that didn't even have policies to support homeschooling.
I see.
So there were some of them trying to get into a homeschool situation and it just wasn't recognized. They actually had to um move with politicians to get policies passed.
Ooh, so they had to fight for it.
Yeah, they literally had to get they had to work with their politicians to get these policies passed
And
so
like
that
getting
they
weak
just
legal.
yeah exactly. So can you imagine teenagers are already doing that just so that they can self-study and just for it to be recognized by the state.
Nice.
And that's why some of these stories are so inspirational because like these teenagers were really going, really to the length
Nice.
to just so that they can get recognition for following their own interests,
I see.
right?
That's good.
And making a curriculum
Mm,
out of those interests.
yeah. So there you go. It's a misconception. What about you? Of the five, what do you think resonates with you most of the benefits
Ah,
that
yeah.
you've mentioned?
So the one about the interest-based learning, I'm really excited about this part.
Mm,
Um, so let's I'll just read from here and then we can kind of do some uh talk after that. So home education allows freedom for interest-led learning. So Dorinda Wilson says, over the last 2 decades, I have watched my kids' interest not only bring life to their learning, but also cultivate a strong sense of who they are and what they were made to do.
mm,
Because they were allowed to explore the full range of their abilities and interests, their school days brought adventure and experiences they wouldn't have had otherwise.
mm,
Why is this so important? Because kids learn best when they are engaged and interested. Learning is a personal process, and when we homeschool, we have the freedom to personalize our kids' learning so that it feeds their natural curiosity.
mm,
Interest-led learning is also important because the career landscape is becoming increasingly specialized. If kids have the freedom to find their niche early on, they can bypass spending the time and money often required to explore options when they are older.
okay. Interesting.
Okay. So, um, there's some interesting things to kind of break down here. Um, the structure of our modern education is a lot of memorization,
Mm.
right?
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Yeah,
Dates, names,
yeah.
places,
And you
history.
you don't get to experience much of that,
Yeah.
right?
Sometimes even context is lost within the lesson plan since we're
Totally.
so focused on getting the dates right, the names, the
Yeah,
places
totally.
that, yeah, we do write some essays about it, but I noticed I learned the context through my own learnings, even when I was a bit older, when I relearned history again by myself.
Yeah, by yourself.
Yeah, so that's when you can put yourself in situations with your imagination while learning history, especially for me. It's different rather than just okay, 1917, World War One, 1940, 1939, World War Two, or Rizal was shot in December, died, born. I don't know. Sometimes it gets lost.
Oh yeah,
Depends on the teacher. There are teachers who are really great at immersing you into the subject or into the curriculum, but
definitely.
for most part, I couldn't remember most of the lessons.
My I still remember my high school history. I took the summer history courses in high school, and I remember we were combined with the other high schools in the area, and we sat in this more, it's like a, I don't know what it was, like a massive room, and there was like over 100 students, and all we did was just watch history movies.
Okay.
That was like my history lesson
Yeah.
in high school.
Yeah, we
And
had those too, like video. I mean, film watching
yeah, and
sections.
there are some good ones, like,
Mm,
some traumatizing ones like
yeah.
Schindler's List. Like, man, that's probably one that people should watch.
Yeah.
Those are the kinds of history
Mm,
movies that really immerse you
mm,
in the experience of those characters. But for the most part, man, like trying to read a Civil War
mm,
history lesson, like I don't remember shit about
yeah.
US history, civil wars, man. Like it just wasn't engaging enough,
Yeah.
dude. Like I'll try to put it into this. There's our daughter had a recent experience because, she's not a basketball player. It's not like her thing, but she had a recent experience once, recently, where she shot her first basketball, and then
Mm,
she was like super excited, like she couldn't wait to tell us about it, and she like remembers the feeling, and she was
mm,
really describing it, how she was bouncing the ball and how she tried so many times, and then finally after trying, like she felt like it was like 100 shots, and finally one went in and she
mm.
like lost her mind, you know what I mean? And and that compared to just if you were to read
Mm,
and memorize everything about a basketball, you could watch LeBron James
mm,
break records or Michael Jordan like do his, amazing
mm,
dunks, and you could memorize everything about the statistics and
mm.
the games, but you would never know the feeling of
Yeah.
what that's like to actually feel the ball in your hand,
Mm.
get released, and the fucking ball like does its thing. You're like, oh, boom! It's like, wow, perfect. And you're like, oh my god, that's amazing.
Yeah.
How does that even work? And like you want to do it again, right? That's a totally different thing
Mm,
than someone who could be like a total sports fanatic and know all the details about the player, but has never actually, felt what it's like to be in a game.
mm.
The experience is what we're talking about
Yeah.
here. And that's what I'm excited about. Is like, of course, you can't experience civil war or
Mm,
like, say like you can't experience like Rizal getting shot. I'm not talking about like
mm.
that level of experience with education. Of course, there are things I'm not like totally an idiot here. Like
Yeah.
I know I realize there are things that, but you to a certain level can try to provide an experience for that kid, like,
Mm.
whether it is you can go to that place or provide different
Yeah.
mediums,
VR.
VR, right?
Yeah. If you
Or
can't afford like going to the exact place where it happened,
yeah,
if you can, I mean that's good. But
yeah,
there are other means, videos or VR. For me,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
one good way of immersing with an experience.
And the thing about the interest-based learning is that the parent or whoever's in charge of that
Mm.
experience is studying their child, right?
Yeah.
Like this is something that I was listening to someone talk about, that this they were talking about different homeschooling methods, right?
Okay.
And they said straight up like homeschooling is not for all parents.
Okay.
And why is that? Because it requires the parent to study their kid,
Mm.
and not
Not
all
just the
parent,
lessons.
not just the lessons.
Okay.
And this is one of the things that they have to do is
Okay.
understand what is the interest, what engages them,
Mm.
what kind of a learner they are, right? Like
Okay. Yeah.
there's a website, or there are ways where you can determine what kind of a learner your kid is. Maybe they're a visual learner, maybe
Mm.
they're auditory
Yeah. Different
learner.
types of
Yeah.
intelligence. Yeah.
Or maybe it's a combination of
Yeah.
auditory and visual, or maybe, they're really into textile stuff, or, there are different ways. But if you're just sending your kid off to the school
Mm.
for 7 hours and just leaving it up to the
Yeah.
to the school to just let them sit there and memorize
Yeah. And just
stuff.
wait for their grades to come and judge them
Yeah.
according to
Yeah.
punish your kids for getting a 75 or
There's no
a
chance.
C. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no chance for any interest-based learning. It's
Mm.
all, this is what you need to know. You regurgitate back what I just
Mm.
told you, and if you can't memorize it within this time frame that we have to take these exams, you get a C, you get a B. You're not at a first, second, third honors,
Mm.
right? Like
Yeah.
that's what they're based on.
For some parents, it's pretty important that you be in first
Oh
place.
yes, let's get into that later. 'Cause
Okay. Okay. I'll save it
I
for
I
later.
definitely have issues with that. My goodness.
So do I.
I understand, but okay, let's just save it, Roxy. So back to the
We're
interest based
skipping ahead.
learning.
Anyway,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
go on, go
We're
on.
gonna be figure out. Um, so I think for me, that's the most exciting thing about homeschooling is not is because I am willing to take the time and try to understand what my kid is interested, because I've been through the traditional school experience.
Mm.
Like I went to public school in the US. I didn't go to private school.
Mm.
Even I think it would probably be not that much different even if I did go to private school,
Mm.
because it's based on the same curriculum,
I see.
right? Yeah, and although homeschooling does have the same curriculum as DepEd, the thing that we're talking about in that I'm trying to refer to in interest-led learning is the spare time, right? Because if the structure of our student right now is that you have 7 hours of the normal school window, right? So what is it, 7:30 or no, 8 o'clock basically,
Mm.
up until what is it, 3:30 or something like
In
that?
America? I know
No, no,
here,
here,
here, yeah.
here, yeah.
7 to 3 or 4.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something
It
like that. And
depends
then
on what grade you are.
yeah, and then you have tutoring, right? And then
Mm.
so she gets out and the sun is going down. Okay.
Mm.
So even if she was interested in math, or a specific topic in science,
Mm.
there's no time to explore, right?
Yeah. She'd be exhausted at the end of the day.
Dude, you should see her face at the
Yeah.
end of the day, man. It's like, Murag, hago kaya ganing bata ba?
Mm.
Murag, third grade pa man.
Yeah.
And that's what people think is normal. Like, really?
Mm.
You think that's normal for a third grader to look like I look like after like a 12-hour work shift or something like that? Okay? That's not normal, dude. Like these kids need more
Yeah,
playtime.
especially with children. I mean, I understand for college people or even senior high
Okay, yeah,
students, but
sure. Sure.
for grade schoolers, I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot that you're going to be missing out.
Yeah. Third grade it was a kind of shocking for me to realize how much time a third grader has to spend in schoolwork
Mm.
and then still come home to the parents' expectations of doing homework and
Mm.
studying on their off time. Like, damn, when do they get a deload, man? When do they get to just relax?
Yeah, and for some, they still do chores. I mean, some kids have to do chores
Yeah.
after school.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Some still have like sports to
yeah,
do.
sports
Like,
to
wow,
do,
man, like Jesus
training.
Christ. Like almost 12-hour shift of school, man. And then to go home and still have more expectations, like Jesus Christ. I mean, man, that's too much, dude. Like for a third grader,
Mm.
that's too much, man. We're gonna get into the like the history of how that even, our modern school system is
Okay, yeah, that's interesting.
yeah, we'll get into that a little bit, but yeah. So the interest-based learning is quite exciting, and especially after I read about these teenagers who don't go to school, the things that they are allowed to do and follow their interests, and they become like masters of their craft. Like
Mm.
there's a story about one of the teenagers that gets into technology, that like he's I think the story was that he was trying to code, and these are like old computers back in the 90s,
Mm. Mm.
and the kid went as far as trying like applying to software companies,
Mm.
as a teenager. Can you
Yeah,
imagine?
yeah,
This is the kind of confidence level that these kids have
yeah.
because they were allowed to explore their interests to a high level at an early age.
Mm.
These kids are already applying to software companies. You know what I mean? Can you imagine having that much confidence? Like, dude, I didn't have anywhere near that level of confidence when I was in my teen years.
Oh,
Man, I was way, way under that level of
yeah.
confidence. But this is what I'm talking about. When you become a master at your craft, I'm not saying that's what I expect from my kid by the
Mm.
time she's a teenager, just because she's going to go homeschool. But she does have the potential to do that,
Mm.
right? And like the other story about the horse rider who was like giving tours to as a professional service to
Mm.
people and getting paid. You know what I mean? So the level of understanding of the real world
Mm.
comes way sooner. And that's how I understand it,
Yeah,
anyways, because they get to explore their interests to the fullest
yeah.
capacity because they have the spare time.
Mm.
They can still do the academic work and, like it says here, the
Yeah,
4-hour
or
school
even
day.
just the bare minimum basics of each subject involved it with our education, science, math, English, language, history, a bit of what's the other subjects that we have. Plus, you get to focus on, yeah, as you said, the skill that you're trying to hone with your child or with the child. You gets more time with not necessarily perfecting it, but at least sharpening some of
Oh, yeah.
the skills that
High
you
level,
really, yeah,
high level
to a
knowledge,
high
man.
level degree.
Yeah.
Mm.
Um, there was one thing I wanted to, where is it? I think it was this one. We were talking about the socialize. Almost forgot about this. Oops. Part in one of the chapters I want to read about
Socialize.
about the socializing because we had
Okay,
we
yeah,
had touched
that's
on it
pretty
a little.
important. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's apparently it's very common
Mm.
common question.
And another misconception that homeschoolers don't socialize a lot. I've also
Yeah,
heard some of that
yeah,
misconceptions.
yeah. And I think it depends if the parent is not keeping their kid active, right? Then of course, if they're just stuck at home, then yeah, if they're not doing anything other than watching TV, then sure, they're not going to get
So it didn't work.
any socialization.
As you said, you got to watch your child, learn,
Study your kid.
study your kid.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. And
Takes a lot of time and sacrifice,
a lot.
effort.
Yes. Okay, so this is written part of this is an excerpt from a teenager named Ayana Williams.
From the 90s, huh?
Yeah, from the 90s.
That's our time, 80s and 90s.
Yeah, so there she touches on different subjects, and there's a little excerpt I want to read about the socialization. Okay, and she is 16 years old. It seems that some people worry that I won't get socialized.
Okay.
I have only been out of school for 1 year. So I think she had transitioned out of the traditional classroom. If they were going to socialize me, I should be pretty socialized after 8 years. What is this thing that I am supposedly lacking? It couldn't be working with other people. I was always under the impression that you should look at your own paper. It couldn't be to communicate. At my school, you were not supposed to talk in class unless you were called on. Talk at lunch, recess. Then you sit quietly for 3 hours. It surely isn't to obey. They couldn't really believe you would do some of the things they tell you to do, like not talking unless you are acknowledged by the authority. I can do all the above when I choose. I can't figure out what socialization is, and if I did, would I want to be socialized? Okay, so I think that that kind of explains, like, from a student perspective, like what we were talking about earlier is like you're not allowed to chat during class.
Yeah.
So there's this thing assuming that just because you're around kids your age, you're somehow socialized.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely time for group discussions within class.
Within
but
class,
most of
yes,
the
yes,
time,
that's
you're
true.
expected to sit and listen.
Yes.
Mm.
Follow the lesson,
Follow the
right?
lesson,
It's
yeah.
not like you just get the chica chica la.
Yeah.
But yeah, there of course there are those lessons where you have to interact with each other and you're interacting with the teacher. So there are definitely, I'm not saying you don't socialize, but I think I think it's safe to say that most of the time you do have to sit and listen. And when there are group activities, maybe then. But then if you're talking about something else other than the lesson, right? Then you get reprimanded,
Yeah.
right? So there's a certain level of socializing that you get. But it's just a certain level.
Yeah.
It's not like when our daughter gets to hang out with her best friend outside of school, they'll spend 4 hours doing whatever they want.
Playing,
Yeah, whatever, doing whatever, playing, painting, talking about whatever, crafting, right? Maybe there's a little bit of time they watch something on the TV or, and then they go outside and do something else, right? So that's a completely different scene than when you see kids socializing in the school,
Yeah.
in the canteen, or, the quick 30 minutes that they get, after they eat, something like that. So, yeah, I'm pretty confident about the misconception that it really is a misconception that you're going to be not socialized
Yeah.
in a homeschool setting. Because we're active, we're around other people.
Most of the time, right? You
Yeah.
go out and
we're gonna get our kids into physical activities.
you're in gym
right?
class
We're in
or
gym,
climbing.
all kinds of
So,
stuff, right? Crafts, like
yeah.
she wants to do music. I'm like, yeah, let's do that. You
Okay.
wanna go to whatever, ballet, let's do that. You know what I mean? I'm gonna fully support whatever she wants to do. And I try to not force anything in terms of, like, those types of activities. I want her to try things. I try not to like make it an issue if she doesn't want to try it. But I'm like, dude, you should try it. You don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, just try some football. If you don't like it, then fine, but at least be open about it. So it's like sometimes it takes a little bit of trying to open up a kid's mind instead of just like forcing them to like try something. It's a totally different approach where it's like you sit down, shut your mouth, and listen to what I have to say. Um, uh, yeah, in terms of the school environment as well, I wanna make sure that I say that I don't think I don't want to like totally shit on the school system because
Mm,
I really do believe that the teachers have good intentions. I really do believe that, some of them are there to try and pass something on to the next generation. And some of them are very loving, some of them are very caring and
mm.
very concerned about the kids. But there are also some who are just there to power trip, man. And then,
Yeah, I've had
um,
those.
yeah. Yeah, some of them love to be that authoritative
Uh,
authoritative figure, and that also is part of the school system,
mm,
right? So that it's difficult to also have to deal with those kind of situations, and it's
mm.
all kind of like mashed up together in this thing we call education.
Yeah.
When we can really be focused on very efficient time spent on lessons one-on-one. And there are even homeschooling groups. I was actually
Here local, not just
here.
in
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, yeah.
that's good.
So
Mm,
on top of right around literally okay, so back we kind of skipped ahead, but when I found these books in the bookshop, literally like less than 2 weeks from buying these books, man. We go to this climbing gym here in the city, and one of the mothers there is a homeschooler,
mm.
and she has two kids
Two kids.
in homeschool. One is I think she's going to be 11, or she is 11, and then the other one is going to be in, I think, fifth grade or something like that.
Nice.
Something like, yeah. Anyways, so it was, another one of those things where it's just like things are being presented to you, and then you just kind of have to connect the dots.
Mm.
It's like somehow I got interested in buying these two books, and then no more than 2 weeks later,
You meet somebody,
yeah. And we have been going to this gym
for I mean
for
together for
a
quite
while.
some time. Yeah.
Yeah. I have actually been to this gym prior to pandemic. So
Mhm.
I had known about the gym and been going there. But there was a situation at the gym where these people, this mother is now part of this partnership with her business partner, and they are managing the gym. So they're there more often. So I had never really seen them before. And now that they are there more often, we got into the conversation about homeschooling. And it was really once I got these books, and then no more than 2 weeks later, we get into this conversation with a mother who's actually doing it.
Yeah.
It's like her first couple of years. Now I think this year is like her second year
Nice.
doing it. And she was all about it, man. She was explaining to me how it worked for them and
Mm.
why she got into it, and just kind of giving me the breakdown
But
of
she's working.
and she's a working single mother,
I'm
right?
jealous. How does she do that?
Yeah, yeah. I was like, wow. And initially the even the wife was excited about it, when
Mm,
she first heard about what they were doing. I was excited about it. And if you speak with her kids, man, they
mm,
are well-spoken kids. They're not like introverts, like in the
mm.
corner, like, oh, I'm homeschool. I don't know how to talk to anybody. You know what I mean? Like
They're just normal kids, right?
dude, they communicate better than other kids that are within my daughter's classmates.
Nice.
And that's nothing, bad against these my our daughter's
Mm,
classmates. But these kids who are homeschooled are well spoken.
mm,
They're not shy to speak to an adult.
I see.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There's a difference that you can tell
Mm,
right away when they speak to you directly.
mm.
And respectfully. They're not just blurting out some nonsense like some of these other kids do in the school, you know what I mean? And there's a lot of that. You can see the difference, they're like it's a little bit maybe biased because there's just two of them that I know that are homeschooling, but and then I'm comparing them to our daughter's classmates, but they're well spoken, man.
Yeah.
Like they know how to communicate to adults.
Yeah. So it's not like the stereotype image that most of us have with
Yeah.
homeschooled kids.
Yeah, they're not weird,
Yeah,
man. You like if you saw them, they're active. They're
uh,
in the climbing gym and they have the time
mm,
actually. It's great to see them because they're excelling in this activity because they have the time to spend.
yeah,
They're not, coming home from a 12-hour school shift and then, hagot na and
yeah,
then still have to go to the climbing gym. They get to do it because they love it. Like they enjoy it,
mm,
and they get to do it and they get to be taught by other adults. The
mm,
coaches, they're communicating with the coaches. They have to listen to lessons
yeah,
and perform what this other coach is telling them. So it's not like they don't understand what's going on because they're
mm,
homeschooled. They understand perfectly,
I see.
right?
Yeah,
So it's kind of silly. As long as you keep your kid active, they're going to interact with adults. They're going to interact
yeah,
with other kids. They interact with our kid. You know
yeah,
what I mean? They interact with other kids who are from other schools in the area who go there to climb.
yeah. That's good because I don't personally know anybody or close to me that have their kids homeschooled. I've met one person though before. It wasn't a friend of mine; it was a friend's friend, and we happened to hang out together one time. And she was talking. That was the first time actually I met somebody who had their kids homeschooled, but the school where they enrolled their kid was in America, but they were based here in the Philippines. Maybe at that time there were still no local homeschooling programs here because that was years back. I think pre-pandemic even. So yeah, that was the first time I've heard about somebody. I mean,
Homeschooling.
yeah, from homeschooling.
Yeah, like personal level. Yeah, it's
Mm.
interesting because during the pandemic, it became a common place to have the homeschool experience.
Yeah, that was the taste of it,
That
right?
was a
When
taste.
everybody got
Yeah.
a taste of it.
Yeah. The distance learning became a normal thing,
Mm,
right? And that was actually the mother that I'm referring to that at the climbing gym that was the reason why they started homeschooling
okay.
was because of the pandemic,
Mm,
and they just kind of just continued it.
mm,
It was like they went and she went and found the homeschool providers here in the Philippines, and just kind of continued it
mm,
from the pandemic. And one of the questions that I definitely was curious about, because one of the concerns of our daughter, and understandably, was, she won't get to see her best friend at school.
mm,
And so I told her, why don't you ask the other homeschool kid, I won't say their name just to keep their privacy, but their daughter, also obviously has friends, and the kids have friends too, because
mm.
they were going to school prior to the pandemic.
Okay.
And so what happened was that because they kept their kid active, they ended up she had the daughter ended up seeing her best friend at football practice.
Okay.
Right. So they could still get to see each other.
Regularly.
Yeah, regularly.
Mm,
So not only does she get to still be active physically, which is good, right? Because too many
mm.
kids are on gadgets these days, regardless of where you go to school. But she also gets to interact with her best friend still. And that's
Yeah.
a great thing,
Yeah.
right? I'm not saying that's what I expect the situation to be for our kid,
Mm,
but that's the potential, right? Like they can still do things
mm,
together outside of the school because they are definitely interested in similar things. That's actually our daughter's best friend. They were friends prior to school because they met each other in ballet.
okay.
They were ballet partners, right? And then when they saw each other in school, it was
Yeah.
like instant. They were like
Yeah.
partners
So
from then on,
so
right?
kind of like the gist is to make sure that they have also enough time to socialize, I guess. That's the
To be active.
yeah, to be active.
Yeah.
Not just as you said, if you're just gonna be at home and your kids are just gonna be at home staring at a screen, watching television, just doing a couple of homeworks while homeschooling, that's not the way to go,
You
right?
should you should be considered an abusive parent at that
Yeah,
point, right?
yeah,
If
yeah.
you're just letting your kids sit around and
Yep.
watch TV all day and then
Uh,
eat fake food, you know what I mean? And then do a little bit of
yeah,
homework and shit like that. That's nonsense. Regardless if you're homeschooling or not, that's ridiculous.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I would never do that.
No.
Um,
So
even during
it's
the
for those who want to be heavily involved with day-to-day activities
yeah.
with their kids. So yeah, as you said, it's not for everyone, but for those who consider it, that's what it takes, right?
Yeah, I think it's not it might not be a decision for everyone to take,
Mm.
but it's something that every parent should at least consider.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a choice,
Mm.
and really consider it as an option.
Mm.
Because let's face it, our modern education is based on the need for a workforce. Okay, so the history
Mm.
of our modern education. Okay, so it's a little bit here in the Philippines. We have a little bit of influence from the Spanish. We
Mm.
have a little bit of influence from the
US.
American, right, the occupation,
Mm.
right. So our it was only what in the last century that we actually had our freedom, right,
Mm.
to actually go about and
Post World War II.
yeah, post World War II, to actually go about our own education,
Mm.
right? So let's talk about that a little bit because we're probably gonna rant a little bit on the DepEd, right? So for me, every parent should at least consider the option of homeschooling because the history of even how our modern education system came to be is for factory workers. Okay.
Mm.
So during the Industrial Revolution, it's understandable because before the Industrial Revolution, how did we get our education? We
Yeah.
got it on the farm
Yeah, on the farm.
or
Exactly.
through our
Yeah.
our parents, our neighbors.
You had to learn how to farm. That's how we survived
Right.
before, prior to the Industrial Revolution, and then the family unit was very integral to the whole of society. So other than not even everyone was required to read and write
Right.
at that
Right.
uh, point in time, but education was different, as you said.
Yeah.
So here comes Industrial Revolution, and
Yes. And so with the Industrial Revolution, you have factories, right?
Mm.
You're creating products in these factories. And what do these factories need? They need workers. They need
Mm.
workers who can follow instructions, who can perform tasks repeatedly throughout the day, every day,
Mm.
8-hour shifts for 5 days a week or whatever it was, right? And you just have the production line. Like that was the purpose.
Yeah.
So no wonder our modern education early on doesn't have things like what we're talking about, self-interest learning,
Mm.
right? This is not catered for kids to be entrepreneurs,
Mm.
right? By the time that they're 12 years old, 11 years old.
Mm.
Okay, there's a reason why you're only allowed two breaks and a lunch break. Wow, doesn't that sound like work? Does that sound like work, anybody? Yeah, I've worked that kind of job before where you have a lunch break and two breaks, right? During your shift. That's shift work, dude. Like, come on. How could parents not understand this? The time frame that the school is even in the schedule of school is so obvious. What do parents do when they drop their kids after they drop their kids off? They go to the office.
Go to work.
They go to work. What do they do after they get off of work? They pick the kid up.
Mm.
Doesn't anyone think that that is somehow so convenient? Why is that? Because they're all part of that work shift, right? The school schedule was catered for the work shift. Okay, so there is research to show that kids shouldn't even be studying that early in the day. Their brains are wired to take in more information and do those critical thinking things later in the morning. There's real research to show that.
Yeah.
But yet here we are making our kids wake up at the crack of dawn, just like you would if you'd be working for a fucking factory or for a corporate company, which came from these fucking factories in the first place. Right? Like this is the thing that we are in the machine.
Yeah, it's kind of mind-boggling to think about it, how we designed our society.
The whole society
Yeah.
is structured around the factory work.
We're not even trying to steer some conspiracy here, but
No.
it almost feels like it's by design or
It
something.
is. It totally is by design, man. This is not, I'm not saying anything revolutionary here. Like, come on, man.
But even from observing it from a bird's eye view, it kind of looks like it looks like that way.
Yes, it's by design. It's by design, people.
Yeah.
It's not a coincidence
Yeah,
that
just think about it like taking away the family time, a big chunk of it. And
seven
then yeah,
hours.
and then programming, even the parents are programmed by society, by the corporate world, and then your kids, you're just letting them follow your your footpath, and
Yep.
they too are being programmed to be that way. Go work or do business if you want to, but how do you conduct business? How do you work? Okay, this is how. Spend time like this. I don't know, man. It's just mind-boggling.
Yes.
No wonder why
Yes.
we live in a time right now where our brains are fried.
Yes.
Depression here, depression there. People are just lost, I think.
Dude, at third grade, I'm telling you, you see the time that these kids spend in schoolwork. It makes me sad that they don't have enough playtime at third grade.
Mm,
That's sad and that makes me sad, dude. Like,
yeah,
why is that? Why is that okay?
yeah.
And that's the expectation. That's the normal expectation. The things that I'm talking about, people are totally against what I'm talking about. Like the people around me, the wife is like, I don't know about this.
You
Like,
don't do that.
yeah, like her parents are like, no,
Uh,
I love my mother-in-law, but she's like,
mm,
it's not a coincidence we're talking about this on the day of our ceremony. The school had the ceremony today
today.
to the moving up
I
ceremony,
see.
the
Okay.
honor award ceremony, right? That
Mm.
was today. So, it's like my mother-in-law knows that like we're considering homeschooling. She's like, your kid is gonna miss getting an award.
You're
Uh,
going into stage and then placing that medal.
yeah,
Yeah,
man.
it's very important for some parents. I noticed.
It's totally for the parents, dude.
Yeah.
It's totally for the
I
parents.
mean, I did it for my parents. When I got the award, my imagination, my dad's gonna be so proud of my mom when they get in that stage because I got awards too in college, not in high school. But that was a pretty a big thing for. I'm not saying my parents are like that, but it's an extra, let's say, reward for them. Like, I'm successful.
Yeah.
My child is on the stage.
It's a trophy thing.
Yeah, it's a
It's a
trophy
trophy
thing.
thing. That's an interesting point. I wanted to bring up. I want to read this.
Shoot.
Let me bring it up here.
Oh, you got the laptop now.
Yeah. Uh, but at the going back to that ceremony,
Mm,
you know the expectation of parents, and there's a good point in it. It's like, my mother-in-law was saying that it motivates the kid to want to get the award
mm,
the following year.
okay.
And I get that. Like that's a competitive mindset, and
Mm,
I understand that, and I'm all about competition. Like I grew up in sports,
yeah.
and that's totally fine. But what there is going to be a threshold there where the kid can only take so much pressure and
Yeah.
expectation, right?
I
And
agree.
as the parent who is
Mm,
expecting that kid to get that award the next year, do
mm,
you understand as the parent where that threshold is, where you're going to start to cause psychological damage and stress your kid out so much
mm.
that they're going to feel like a failure if they don't get that award?
Yep, I've seen that happen countless times with with
Happens every
kids.
year.
Yeah.
If you're not on the list,
They break down mentally,
yeah,
even emotionally. They break down. I've seen it happen when things don't go that way in that direction.
I can tell you during the school year, man, that they get announced to the class.
Mm,
Who got first quarter honors, who got
yeah.
second quarter honors for this subject and that subject.
Mm,
And you can hear it in the kids when
yeah.
they speak about it,
Yeah.
how they
Kinda,
feel disappointed in themselves, how
no.
they feel expectation. They see the other kids who are getting first honors every single time,
Mm,
and they're now they have to compare themselves. And the reality is that some of us, like myself, just don't do well with
yeah.
exams, dude.
Yeah.
Like I hated exams.
So did I.
You know what I mean? Like, do you really want to measure your kid by how well they can do memorization for an exam? Is that
Mm,
really how you want to measure your child. And I think I understand that, well, how this can be encouraging, but where is the threshold for that? And are you, as the parent, paying enough attention after your 12-hour work shift and you're so tired that you don't even want to cook dinner? Are you paying enough attention to your kid that you know where that threshold is, that you're causing too much stress? I highly doubt it.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that parents don't care. I'm not trying to say that at all.
Yeah.
I think they do care. I think that's why they work those 12-hour shifts. That's why they travel. There's some parents who do some fucking hustles, man.
Yeah.
And hats off to them. I'm not saying anything about
Kudos
it.
to them.
But
Exactly.
what is the expectation threshold that you're going to enforce on your kid and cause them all, suffering, right? Is it really worth it? I don't know. For me, it's not.
Yeah.
That's my decision.
Yeah, or even me, this is just my opinion. It even causes sometimes like an emotional distancing of some sort, since you've been away for many hours during the day or even the whole year. And then on top of that, you have expectations set for them, and then you expect them to grab that gold medal or
Yeah.
of some sort. And that's the only thing. And you reward them, right? You
Yes.
reward them every time they get it, whether it's a new toy or
Mhm.
something.
Yes, exactly.
And then they'd be fixated. Well, as long as I do this, this is going to make me successful by
Yeah.
making my parents happy with that. But is it the only thing that I don't know? That's just my take on it. But
Yeah. So let's keep talking about, because this is a really interesting part of parenting and education. This is the whole subset of culture within education that as a parent, I'm only now kind of like kind of understanding of like
yeah,
why those things even happen.
we learn as we go.
Yes.
Yeah, I've always believed in this quote that the education starts at home
Yes,
with the parents.
absolutely.
Yeah, so
100%. 100%.
like real education, that's life education, starts with your conversations, my conversations with my real conversations with my parents before. And by learning from them, unfortunately, we didn't have enough time.
Yeah.
Since we grew up that most of us grew up that way. Our
Yep.
parents were busy.
Yep.
We were busy too with our shenanigans. But I
Sure.
wish I wouldn't mind working at a farm as long as I get to read, write, do some activities that's educational. But I wouldn't mind working with my dad in the field if
Yep.
it meant having more interactions with him in another world.
Yeah. Well, this is an interesting thing. Okay, well, let's go back to this. I want to read something here. So the phenomenon you're describing is often referred to as achievement by proxy,
Achievement by proxy.
or more specifically, achievement by proxy distortion. This occurs when parents become overly invested in their children's achievements as a reflection of their own self-worth,
Ooh,
rather than focusing on the
that
child's
hits hard.
personal growth and interests.
Mm.
In extreme cases, this can lead to a form of psychological pressure where the child's accomplishments are used to elevate the status or fulfill the aspirations of the
Of the
parent,
parents.
rather than supporting the child's own goals and well-being.
Yeah.
Another term related to this behavior.
What's the term again that you
Okay, so the last part of that, another term related to this behavior is vicarious achievement,
vicarious achievement?
or living vicariously through your child, right? We've heard that before.
Yeah.
Where parents live through their children's successes. This can often put undue pressure on children to meet their parents' expectations, sometimes at the expense of their own happiness or interests.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's got to be a real reality check, and that's really tough for us to admit to ourselves.
Yeah,
right?
we got to face that.
Yeah. I had to ask myself,
Yeah.
am I ready for my kid not to get these awards? Like, does it really make a difference to me as a parent or to her as a student to be recognized in this way? Is it really for her as a student? Is it really for the student, or does it matter more to me? Because I've heard parents speak about these kind of things, and man, you know that these parents have high expectations.
Oh yeah.
Right, you know what I mean?
I mean, understandably, I would I would let's say if some parents have those expectations, that's on them. That's their life. But just for me personally, I've learned a lot. I've just only been a father for what, roughly 3 years, something and a half. But what we've talked about. I was beginning to realize that sometimes I project my own image
Oh,
on the child.
100%.
Like I want her to be like this,
Oh,
like
yeah.
that, because I
Oh, yeah.
failed.
From the
Yeah,
beginning.
I failed with, or even
Yeah,
from
yeah,
the
yeah.
womb. Like, all right, I'm gonna
Absolutely.
make this. I'm gonna
Absolutely.
make her the best. Like that.
Yep. Yep.
But you learn along the way, even with failures that they're having, failure to even um what's a follow your command would be frustrating. So that's one hurdle that each and every one of us has to face with that reality.
Before the kid even comes out of the womb, man, we start having
Yeah,
expectations, right? We start thinking,
agree.
man, oh, it's gonna be a doctor. Yeah. Your daddy's a doctor. You're gonna this kid's gonna be a doctor, right? You know, you're already making
Yeah.
comments about it to other people. People are making comments to you, you know, about this, what the kid's gonna be like, what the
Yeah.
kid's gonna do. And before they even have a birthday, right? And that's the thing. We do this over and over, the
Mm,
days, the weeks, the years.
mm,
Then they go to school, right? And then it's just like it just keeps going. So at what point is the parent checking themselves, right?
mm,
And who is no one's around to check the parent either. Like we
mm.
have to check ourselves.
Because we are the last line. We're the one disciplining them. We're the one teaching them, and there's no buffer between us and them because we're in control, right? We are, at least we like to
Yes,
think
we
so. So
feel
nobody's
like
checking on us except ourselves. When you face it yourself and meditate or reflect, that's when you know that there's something off here with my the way I'm.
yeah. The control, I think, is addictive.
Yeah.
Because you get used to that in the early days, right? Like, because you're the prime caregiver of this child. You are responsible for this human being to stay alive.
Mm,
So you get accustomed to making decisions for that kid very early on in their life.
mm,
So then they get to they start developing, and then we just continue making decisions. No, don't wear that. You wear this. Put
mm.
your hair like that. Do this. No, don't read that book. Read this kind of book.
Yeah.
Don't do that sport. Do this sport. Because
Yeah.
so we just get used to doing that.
Mm,
And at what point do we check ourselves? And I think that's a very difficult thing to do,
mm.
is to stop what you're doing in the midst of your routine, because we're just trying to do their hustle thing, right? Like
Yeah.
we're trying to make money so we can send our kid to this school. So this kid's got to get these grades.
Mm.
And now I have these expectations for this kid because I'm working my ass off at this job that I don't even fucking like. And now my kid is not even getting on the first honors, right? Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck?
Just
Like,
added
you know what
pressure
I
on
mean?
you.
Like,
Yeah.
who? And then there's no buffer, right? Like,
Mm.
who is checking the parent? Nobody,
Yeah.
because we're all doing it. We all have the same expectation. The other parents are doing a crazy hustle.
Yeah.
They got to fly around the country and make all kinds of money. They got a 3-story house. I don't even have a fucking car. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it gets to that point where like,
Yeah. Like
who is checking me?
and then so
Nobody.
well that's important. You do that. That's true. That we need to really check ourselves. What movie was that? Check yourself before you
Yeah,
wreck
yeah,
yourself. I
yeah,
think it was a Robert Downey film.
yeah.
I forgot the
If you
title.
don't, you're gonna wreck your kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're gonna cause psychological stress. And then and that always reminds me, when I think about the psychological stress, that always reminds me of a good friend that I had. And I've told you about him before. My good friend who's blind, because he tried to commit suicide
Shit.
when he was in high school, because of a combination of a lot of pressures that
Mm,
are happening at that time,
mm,
and the parents, you have to wonder, how much attention are we giving to what we're doing? Why are we working, right? We've talked about that before.
mm,
Why do we work? We work so that we can provide. Yeah,
mm,
but do we really need to provide with, the most, the biggest house on the block? Do
mm.
we really need to do that? Like, do I need to,
Fastest
yeah, the
car.
fastest, do I need to work to the point where I don't have any more time with my kids because I'm making so much money. And
Mm,
but what am I doing with that money? Is it giving me quality time with my kid? Okay, yeah, we get to go to Disneyland in Hong Kong.
mm,
But has that improved my relationship with my kid?
mm.
Or does that just give me something to post online and get all these fucking likes and hearts and
Yeah.
bullshit like that?
Or does it even make them a better person
Right.
by
Yeah.
doing that? That's for me, that's very important. Like the kind of education I want to give my child or future children, if permitted.
I
Uh, it's like it's the honing of the individual or the personhood of that that human being, by making them better, not just in terms of success with finances or position in society, but how they can be a person, or well, safe to say, like Christ,
sure.
Christ-like.
Sure.
That's my end goal, at least for me. So, and you can only do that by spending quality time with them, right? By honing them, by teaching them yourself, because not the school's going to do that, not the government.
Hmm.
That's why, for me, I'm very much interested in this system. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I'm considering it.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely don't want to tell. I'm not here to say how parents should spend their time with their kids or with their work, but I'm trying to communicate is that it should be a consideration for a parent
Mm,
to ask themselves, what am I really working for?
yeah,
Right.
that's true.
And if it's a sacrifice, you have to sacrifice your family time to get up in financial status so that you can maybe in the future have better quality time.
Mm,
Then I get that. Like maybe you're in a financial situation where you need to get your hustle on and you have to travel around the country or travel around the world to make that money. But have you thought far into the future, five,
mm.
10 years? Is it going to be too late to have quality time with your kid?
Yeah, that's a
You
good
know,
question.
like when is that going to stop? When is it going to come to the point where you realize,
When you're in your
hmm,
deathbed,
yeah, is it
that
going to
would
get
be
to that point?
tragic.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's really the ideal for, at least not for me personally. That's not how I want to do it. I don't want my kid to be like, man, my dad was never around.
Mm,
I definitely grew up in a household where our father in our household was definitely getting a financial hustle on,
mm.
at some point even having three
Three
jobs.
jobs, holy.
But look at what the he wasn't working to have a future quality time with his kids, right?
Mm,
That was a situation where he had different priorities
mm,
than the family. And that was his decision. Like I can't do anything about it now.
mm,
All I can do is learn from it. But we were talking about those traumas from our personal experiences.
mm.
Are we passing those on? Like, what are we doing to make sure that we don't do the same things to our kids? And are we passing on the generational trauma, right?
Yeah.
That's a very important thing.
We got the gift of being self-correcting beings. So so it's use it. I mean, for
We
me,
owe it to
yeah,
our kids.
we owe it to our kids to stop those patterns from happening again.
And there's nothing wrong with saying I fucked up.
Yeah,
Like I didn't realize I
every
wasn't
day.
doing that. Yeah. All the time, man. All the time. I don't know how many times I've told myself, man, I
Yeah.
just fucked that up. I just fucked that up. I just fucked that opportunity up.
I
Like,
get told I fuck up every day. Like, all right, that's fine. I acknowledge it. Like,
yeah.
but doesn't mean I'm gonna repeat it again. I'm gonna
Yeah.
try at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to try. I mean, if the kid is gonna get the impression that you're not trying and that's the legacy that you're
Yep.
leaving behind, people assume that just because you leave a castle behind that you somehow have left a good legacy,
Mm,
which in reality, man, that shit's just gonna get sold if the kid doesn't give
yeah.
a shit about you, man, or doesn't give a damn about the material things that you left behind because you were not around.
Yeah.
Maybe you were physically around, but you weren't mentally
Yeah.
around, right?
Mentally or emotionally,
Or
especially.
emotionally,
Yeah.
right? So those are tough things that we have to talk to ourselves about. And
Mm,
whether you pray about it, whether you meditate
mm,
about it, whether you seek counseling
mm.
in a pastor and a priest and
Or a
in your
psychiatrist or
psychiatrist, or what your higher self, your multidimensional self, whatever it is, man, like you have to find your
yeah,
way
find a way.
to do that. Because I think, man, if you go your entire kid's life not never asking yourself the question, what am I working for? Am I
Mm,
spending quality time with my kid? Like, damn, man, it's not easy, dude. Like, I choose to work less and spend
mm.
and make less money, and that is a sacrifice in itself.
Yep.
I can't send my kid on fancy vacations, like,
Like all the
all
time
the
or every
time.
summer
Or,
either. Yeah.
we can't go to, fancy dinners and exotic vacations and exotic places, but that's going to be something I have to think about as a long-term investment.
Mm,
What am I doing with my spare time? Am I just spending 4 or 5 hours scrolling mindlessly, or am I actually engaging with my kid because I have that free time, right?
mm,
Those are definitely two different things.
mm.
So it's not just about making the decision to be physically around. Like, you have to be engaged, and like I said earlier, you have to study your kid and
Yeah. Yeah.
try to provide them an experience,
Mm,
even as so little as to speaking with them, right? That's
yeah.
an experience in itself, like engaging in some activity with them at home. Like, that's an experience in itself.
Yeah.
So we as parents have the responsibility, and we need to take that. And I am not sure if we're stuck in this factory machine,
Mm.
how many of us are actually constantly asking ourselves these questions and considering the other options, right? Instead of being within the machine.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And I'd just like to add something to the what do you call this? Other than studying your kid, one of the plus sides that I've noticed in some, basically, of course, I'm not formally homeschooling, but by spending time with my child, it's kind of like I'm forced to learn subjects too, like let's say science,
Absolutely.
or if on a basic level
100%.
for
Yes,
when
yes.
you're trying to teach them something, or when you're asking questions,
Yes, yes,
what
yes,
is
yes.
light,
Yes.
or even philosophical questions
Yeah.
like what is death, why is my grandma dead. She sometimes she gets too it's funny, like too direct, like your mom's dead. I'm like, all right, thanks for
Yeah.
reminding me.
The the brutal honesty of kids, man.
Your mom's dead.
Damn, uppercut, dude. Like, yeah, they have no idea,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
the
But it's
context of
funny
what
to,
they say.
but we do talk about it. Like, why do things
Sure,
die?
sure.
Why
It's
do
an opportunity.
And I
Yeah.
like I talk about it casually,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like not in a way like scaring them, like you're gonna die one day.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
things come and go when I explain, and I love it. I love
Yeah.
when I go through that depth with a child, because there's this connection that when they kind of get it, but they don't get it yet.
Yeah, yeah. I like that you bring that up, because you have to have enough awareness and humbleness to be able to take that and be like, what the fuck did you just say? You're not saying, like, you're not taking it as a personal comment and be like, fuck, dude, you just like insulted me. But you took it, you can take that opportunity to be like, yeah, and talk about death and talk about the feelings, or,
Mm,
there's a lot of opportunity in
yeah.
those moments, right? And
Mm,
that's what we're talking about, where you're giving an experience by, because they have they have, in that moment, you can
mm,
engage with them. And that in itself is the experience that is very different
mm,
from, if you were just to, like, drill it into their mind, like,
yeah.
what is death, or you have to memorize
Yeah,
things
yeah.
about death, right? It's totally different when in that moment in their mind, they have this thought, and you can engage that thought and dive deeper into it. But if you don't have the awareness, if you don't have the humbleness to be like, damn, that hurt, because I got reminded about something that traumatized me, but now I can dive into that moment, get past that feeling,
Mm,
and now move forward with an educational experience that I can provide my kid, like that is totally different, right? That's a totally different way to educate.
Mm,
That's what we're getting to, right? That's what I'm hopeful for, is like
and
when
even excited for. I
yeah,
mean, for me,
totally
like,
excited.
what if she's like gonna be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, that age where the questions becomes
Oh
deeper
yes,
and the
yes,
question becomes more complicated even
it
and
does.
complex. So you would
Yeah.
have to answer with a bit of a different context.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I love that you're in control, right? When they ask those questions or when you're learning together, I don't think it's just the kid learning when they're homeschooled. The parents are learning, not just as you said, so the learning, learn. So to kanang you're learning your kids. What was that?
Oh, the vicarious, is that what you're talking about?
When you're trying to get cues from your
Oh, when you
child.
study your
You
kid.
study your kid. There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
Sorry, yeah.
yeah.
Study your kid, and you get to study as well and learn new
Yes, 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 yes.
things from
Mhm.
because you're forced to, at least because you have to review their
A
materials.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't have to be an expert.
No,
I'm
no, no,
sure.
no.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point, because technology is prime for
Mm,
homeschooling, man. Like,
these days, right?
these
Mm,
days, yeah, yeah, and that's one thing that I really have to thank you about for getting me into AI. You're the one that introduced it to me, and now I see a bigger opportunity
mm,
with education. I'm not. I don't think AI is going to replace teachers,
for sure.
but it is
Yeah.
definitely going to enhance the
Mm,
educational opportunities for situations like homeschooling,
mm,
and even for traditional classroom teachers. I'm
mm,
sure some of them are already using AI to help them figure out, lesson plans that are more engaging, and hopefully that's being enforced by the schools to have their teachers start studying.
mm.
But it's really interesting to know that there is like a boom of AI tutoring going on right
Yeah.
now. Okay.
Mm,
This is not something that, as parents, we should not be ignoring this. Like, we need to be paying attention on what these opportunities are,
mm,
because it's blowing up, man. Like, even Elon Musk has opened up an online school with
mm.
AI tutor.
Really?
Okay.
What's the
Yeah.
name of that?
Let me bring that up. It's really interesting.
You may have mentioned it before, but I think I
I,
forgot.
I believe I sent you,
Yeah,
I believe I sent you
I
the,
forgot the name. Or I know he has an AI system like was it Gork or something?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So let me,
Yeah.
let me just read it straight up from when I was searching around on ChatGPT. So Elon Musk founded an online school named Ad Astra,
Ad Astra to the
which
stars. Mm.
well, yeah, nice. Which later evolved into Astronova
Okay.
to provide a more innovative and experimental educational experience compared to traditional schools.
Mm.
Musk initially created this school to educate his own children and some children of SpaceX employees,
Nice.
emphasizing a curriculum that diverges from conventional education methods.
Mm.
Okay, so here are some key reasons behind the creation of Musk's school. Okay, number one, dissatisfaction with traditional education. Okay,
Mm.
I'm not the only one saying this, okay? Musk was reportedly unhappy with the education his children were receiving at their school. He believed traditional schools were not doing enough to foster critical thinking and problem-solving skills.
Okay.
Of course, yeah. I mean, if you're just okay, I wanna take a side note here, and give you an example. Okay, our daughter doesn't uh, so in their third grade level, they had this recent their in the fourth quarter they had some recent math lessons. Okay, so you'll understand this. So if you were the lessons were about measurements, okay, about meters, centimeters, um, kilometers, right?
Mm.
So they were trying to like in their workbook, in their math book, it gives you examples. So it's funny. it shows you a picture of a car,
Mm.
and then there's like a, you know, a uh I don't even know if it's to scale, but there's a ruler underneath the car, and it shows that the car is 3 meters long, right?
Okay.
Okay, so that's just kind of like an example picture. And so I'm reviewing this because she had difficulty with these lessons. They have quizzes every week. She didn't do well on this quiz, so I'm trying to go through it. Like you're saying, you have to kind of relearn things.
Mm.
So I'm going through the workbook that and trying to understand the lessons so that I can try to explain it to her. And so I'm the first thing that pops into my mind when we're talking about measuring stuff, I mean, I asked her, "Where's your ruler?" Right?
Mm.
And so she, I told her to bring me a tape measure. And so as we're doing these exercises, I'm like, what did you do with your ruler in class?
Mm.
And she tells me, and I didn't verify this with the teacher, right? So I might be wrong on this, but she tells me they didn't use a ruler in school.
Mm.
They just looked at the projector or
Mm.
whatever was on the screen.
Oh.
Okay. I was like, what? You are in third grade. You have basic school supplies, right? It's hard to believe not every one. This is not a cheap school to go to, right?
Mm.
Okay. So parents can surely afford their kids a cheap ruler.
Mm.
Usually it's like 1 foot ruler, right? That's pretty common,
Yeah.
right? They didn't use it in class. She was like, I didn't know what this is. I brought out a tape measure. It's 3 meters long.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So I'm like, I'm bringing this lesson into the physical space in front of us by using objects around us.
Mm.
We have mats that are like 1 meter long. So I'm like talking to her about this and that. And I'm showing her how to measure. And she's like, we didn't use a ruler in class. I was like, what the fuck? Are you kidding me? You're talking about measuring and you guys didn't have a fucking ruler? And that's not to say that it's the school's fault, right? This is what I'm talking about.
Mm.
The school system fails on such a fundamental level that they can't even come up with an engaging lesson on how to measure 1 meter
Mm.
because they have over 30 students for 2 teachers in a classroom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And they have a schedule.
For lack of time and
Lack of time.
management of
Lack of
the
quality because
students.
you
Yeah.
can't cater one, the student to
Mm.
teacher ratio is just too high, right?
Mm.
And so when I hear things like this, where Elon Musk is not satisfied in a traditional school setting, like I totally understand that because even for me, I'm like, well, you didn't use a fucking ruler. You're just talking about measuring centimeters.
Mm.
All right. And then you have to somehow understand on this printed picture
Mm.
of a fake car. It doesn't even look like a real car,
Mm.
that somehow you understand that this thing is 3 meters long.
Mm.
And it's tiny, it's on a book. Like you have no spatial awareness,
Reference.
a reference of the real world. And so that was where I realized, like, wow, this is on this level, the school system is failing,
Mm.
right? And that's not to say because of the teachers are no good.
Mm.
It's
just the system itself.
it's just a system, man, because they have to at the end of the day, it's a business,
Mm.
right? This is a private school.
Plus, there's a name behind it, and
they have a name behind it. They have a schedule to follow. The DepEd, let's I'm not gonna go on a rant about DepEd yet.
it's gonna take a day to
Okay.
rant about the DepEd.
Yeah, let's the teachers
Oh,
still have to follow that curriculum, right? And so
Okay.
these are the limitations of the traditional school system. And I'm not trying to say it's the school's fault, but it's the system is failing, right?
Mhm.
The system is failing on a third grade math level. And you might say, like, well, why are there some kids getting honors?
Mm.
I'm like, okay, that's great. They're great at memorizing. Good for them.
Mm.
But like some of us, like me, like to learn outside. Like I hated being in a classroom, man. Like I could learn way better with my hands
Yeah.
and doing stuff. Okay, so, and maybe that's true for my daughter. I'm not exactly 100% sure about
Mm.
that yet, but I'm pretty sure if you use objects Okay, so a millimeter, I would give her example, is like the wrinkle in your finger. That's how, because she is like, which one is bigger, a millimeter, centimeter, or meter? Is like, I don't know. Because you have to look at this fucking picture in a book,
Mm,
right? And it's like a millimeter is like a line on a page, you know, it's
yeah.
like, what the hell is this? Like you have to compare that to a centimeter. It's like, all right, let me use some real world examples. A very simple shit, like you
Mm.
know what I mean. Like, but I had to do like you're saying, like I had to relearn.
Even the history behind the unit of measurement that would help. I mean, it greatly helps. Like, if in Europe they call it, like some would call it your weight stones, right? So it's kind of like
Ah, yeah, yeah,
foreign sounding of what the hell are
yeah,
stones?
yeah,
And here we have pounds, or
yep.
which unit do we use? I think we use we're different from America for sure, because they use for distance they use miles, right? You guys use
The
miles,
metric,
the
yeah, yeah,
metric system,
yeah.
yeah.
The we use the metric system
Yeah,
here.
so it would also help if you learn the history behind
Yeah.
the
Why
usage of
is
that,
there a
because it
different
would,
system?
yeah, it would, at least when you teach it to the
Yep.
kids,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you can have like
Yeah.
a frame of reference and why we measure things this way and that way.
Yeah.
And
And it's funny because even as a parent who is trying to come up with something engaging and excuse me, and interact with these lessons, it's like you're also constrained to the time frame because they have a quiz.
mm,
They have a quiz, and so just get her to memorize
yeah.
what this specific lesson is because that's what's on the exam next week. So don't start confusing her with all kinds of history lessons about metrics and all this stuff. This is
Mhm.
the kind of stuff that you're gonna come across
Yeah, every
if
day.
you're trying to expand your kid's knowledge,
Mm.
and then your wife is telling, don't confuse her with all that other stuff because that's not on the exam.
Uh,
You know what I mean? This is the system
uh,
that is failing. This is why I believe it's failing, is because we have to stick to this only, right? Like
mm,
this only is on the exam. So let's not get into that other stuff
yeah.
about the history of this or that, or the why is the pound this or that,
Mm,
because that's going to confuse them because they have to memorize
yeah.
only
And
this,
the goal is to
right?
pass the exam and get
The
the highest
goal,
grade.
yes, exactly. You see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
even as a parent who wants to give their kid a richer experience,
Mm,
you are still constrained to the educational system,
mm,
educational curriculum. And that's why there are things like unschooling,
mm,
because you don't follow any curriculum at
mm.
all.
So that's where unschooling.
That's where unschooling is.
Okay,
Yeah,
now
yeah.
I get it. All
Okay,
right.
so that was a that was a long side tangent. Okay, so let's go back to Elon Musk and his online school.
Okay.
Okay. So that was number one, dissatisfaction with traditional education. So number two of why Elon Musk has started a school, focus on problem solving. Ad Astra and Astronova emphasize problem solving and critical thinking over what is this word? I don't even know this word. Over rote memorization. Rote memorization?
Rote.
ROTE?
Mm.
Damn.
Is there like
I'm an idiot.
and the E?
No.
Probably wrote.
Rote.
Oh.
Okay. So basically it focuses on problem solving and critical thinking over memorization, right? The curriculum includes tackling real world problems and learning about cutting edge science and technology.
Mm,
Okay. So number three, tailored learning. The school aims to provide a personalized education that caters to individual strengths and interests of each student rather than adhering to a standard curriculum.
mm,
This approach is intended to engage students more deeply and encourage a lifelong passion for learning. Wow, amazing concept. Geez, wow, that sounds awesome, right?
mm,
Sounds like homeschooling. Say number four, why Elon Musk has started a school, an online school. Number four, encouraging innovation and creativity. Musk's interest in fostering innovation aligns with his broader vision of a future shaped by breakthrough technologies and solutions to global challenges. His school aims to cultivate the next generation of innovators and entrepreneurs. Five, experiential learning. The curriculum includes unique learning experiences that go beyond traditional classroom settings,
mm.
including hands-on projects and simulations that
Nice.
are more aligned with Musk's industries and interests.
Okay.
Through this educational venture, Musk seeks to experiment with new teaching methodologies and curricula that he feels could be that he feels could better prepare students for the challenges of the future, especially in an era dominated by technology and rapid innovation.
I see. Will that program be available for
It's
everyone?
available right now.
Oh, okay. I
Okay,
thought it was
so
like not yet.
no,
They
it's
haven't launched.
live, man.
Oh,
There are two tiers to this. I checked out the website very briefly.
hmm.
There is an online AI tutor that you can pay for on a subscription basis, and it's affordable.
Like
It's affordable. I think it was like per month, like at somewhere between $30 and $50 a month.
it's not bad.
If you're a working professional, that is
Yeah.
accessible.
Huh.
They have a second tier.
For a working AI system, tutoring system,
Yeah, tutoring system.
yeah, reasonable.
Yeah. And the other tier is like it's like a software based group. I'm not sure exactly how to explain it, but it's it's group based, and the kids get to engage with each other.
Okay.
Okay, so it's somehow they build software that it's like a game. It looks like a game. Like I was watching these
Nice.
trailers,
Oh.
and it looks like they're engaging in a game together, and they solve things through this software.
So it makes it more interactive.
Yes, as a group.
As a group.
And that one is expensive.
Yeah. Is there like a trial version for that? I should try that.
I didn't see
Okay.
if there was a trial. I didn't see that. It's possible, but the AI tutor one is quite interesting.
Yeah. I should
Okay.
check that one.
And
Thank you for mentioning it.
yeah. I mean, I was happy to have come across that, and I just came across that I think last month. And the thing is live, man. And supposedly there are lots of people in the tech industry that are signing their kids up for that.
Mm.
Right? I don't know what the statistics are. I don't even know if they released those statistics, but according to some of the reports that I was reading,
Yeah.
there are the tech people are into it, man.
Yeah. See, I think I sent you an article the other day about the diversity of people who choose homeschooling now, because it used to be like there was a stigma before, again, going back to the it's no longer a misconception now, but before it was true. Most religious people or conservative people choose to homeschool
Yeah.
way back. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, according to the Washington Post, I forgot the sources they had, but even secular people are now choosing homeschool or
Yep.
prefer
Mhm.
homeschooling their
Yep.
children.
It's
So that was
It's
that-
not just Christians anymore.
yeah, that was pretty interesting because my primary reason for being interested as a religious a person now is because of that. It's the environment. That's one of my main motivations for it. It's not because I'm afraid for her, and she has to confront the world, of course, but I'm more comfortable being in control of not just the environment, but how she deals with it. It's the
Yep.
most important one, like how she's going to react to the world that she's going to live with in her time. So I want her to be in line with the principles, not my principles, the
Yep.
principles of course the Judeo-Christian values that I was
Sure.
brought up with. So now a lot of secular people are into it. So it tells a lot, right? It's no
Yeah.
longer just the religious.
Yeah.
They even call it the religious fanatics before, just homeschooling their kids.
Yeah, I think you're mentioning something that's really important here. And I had some recent conversations with academic staff. And I wanna share that a little bit, and I'll try to give the context of this as much as I can. So just to give not to say anyone's name or anything like that, to keep privacy and all that kind of stuff.
Mm.
I was speaking with a couple academic staff, and one of them has a very high position in a school here in Cagayan, probably one of the higher positions in a school that academic staff can have. And they are just this person was telling the wife and I, when we were talking about we kind of got into this like, because I was curious, like how is the school handling these kinds of topics about gender
Mm.
and things like that? And eventually, what we were being told is that the school really cannot enforce values anymore.
Ooh, really? Oh, because yeah, they have to cater to everyone.
No,
So
it's because the kids are so exposed. When
okay.
they go home, this is kind of how it was explained. When the kids go home, it is a different set of values and a different kind of culture when they go home because
Mm.
the kids are so exposed on their gadgets.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's
It's
a
no
good.
longer just about what they hear in
Mm.
school, right? It's about what they see on their
Yeah, and
gadgets.
partly our fault too.
Yeah. What do you mean? As parents, is giving them the gadgets?
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
having access to information that you're not supposed to yet
This is
be
a
exposed with.
yeah.
Yeah.
This is a side effect of the machine.
Mm.
Okay. Well, parents are so busy and so tired from being part of the machine, right? That
Yeah.
they give their kids the gadgets so that they can do their hustle, right?
Distractions. Yeah.
Yeah. They need their kid to just
Mm.
kind of stay put so that they can do something that they need to do, right?
Yeah.
And this is what's happening, and it was really eye-opening to hear someone in a position in a school
Mm.
here in in northern Mindanao, and it's not just like some random school. Like
Mm.
this is one of the well-known schools around here in northern Mindanao.
Yeah.
So for them to say like, it's really difficult for they can of course have the values and recite the values of the school, and the kids will still understand that that school has values, of
Yeah.
course.
Respect. The basic ones
Yeah,
for
but they understand, and they just they this the academic staff is now understanding that it's really up to the house culture.
Mm.
What they value in the home is then brought to the school.
Mm.
And that's the thing, right?
The problem I think is that when the individual student imposes the values upon his or her peers at school, so that's
Yep.
something that
Yep.
will be hard to control.
Oh, yes. Oh,
So
yes.
that is one of my main, because I want to stick to the core values that I would like to what's this nourish and really cultivate with my child. So I'd like to be focused in that without the distractions from external forces as much as possible. That's again one of my motivations, why I'm interested in it. So it would be easier to really if I put it in a scriptural way, be attached to the branches.
Mhm. Be attached to the branch.
Yeah, yeah. Because it's a scripture thing. But anyway,
Uh,
when you're there's this olive branch analogy we have in the scripture. So you
okay.
have to be attached to be able to grow and to
Mm,
be cultivated
sure.
by Christ, as they say. So
Like grafting.
yeah, something like that. So the more distractions they have, it's going to be harder.
No, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
So
100%. Yeah, you're falling off the tree, man.
yep, there you
You're
go.
falling off the tree
Mhm.
real fast these
There you
days.
go. Yeah.
It doesn't take much, right? It doesn't take much.
Mm.
The power of the group, the peer influence is very
Mm.
strong. And that was a recent eye opener in a different book that I
So
read.
now that the school no longer has the power before they used to, I mean, I remember a time
It
when,
was more influential,
yeah,
yes,
the teachers
absolutely.
were really in control, in command of everything, and I would even experience like when teachers throw things. That was pretty normal, and parents wouldn't complain. You'd be
Yeah.
baked under the sun if you were rude, too rude or rowdy. That was pretty normal back in the day. Yeah, but now, well,
Well, what's
different time.
considered normal might not always
Yeah.
be conducive
I
of
mean,
learning,
for
right?
parents who are okay with that, that's their thing. I
Yeah.
don't really bother with that.
Well, that is one thing that we're questioning about today is we're questioning what is considered normal, right?
Yeah.
In the context of culture, these are we are challenging the culture, right, by talking about this topic.
Mm.
So as much as possible, I actually challenge parents to consider being the anti-culture
Mm.
because
Or counterculture.
counterculture, yeah. I definitely encourage parents to consider counterculture because these days, wow, what's considered normal, I don't know, man. It's kind of frightening, right? Like
Mm.
what is allowed, what our kids are seeing and exposed to online.
Yeah, we were pretty rebellious in our heyday, but Jesus, now it's just like, oh, this is going off the rails.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, it's an interesting dilemma when you realize that the household values are so much uh threatened
Hmm. And the
threatened these
family,
days.
especially the
Yeah.
family, the concept of a family.
Yeah, and that's why homeschooling is booming in places like the US because there's so much crazy culture being enforced and spreading that people don't agree with. I'm
Mm.
not saying that they have to not agree with it, or if they don't agree with it, then that's great. Then they should uphold their values. And as long as they're not hurting people, then they don't want to participate in the policies that are being enforced in the classrooms, then go for that homeschool option. I think that's
Yeah,
that's an awesome thing to
yeah.
show your kid that they are the ones in control of what they value.
Mm.
Because the school is saying straight up, man, it really depends on the house.
Mm.
And they bring their culture to the school. It's not the other way around. Maybe that's how it used to be,
Yeah,
but that's not how the academic staff feels about it these days, man. I'm
yeah.
like, wow.
So our
Uh,
job here is to just do the curriculum, have them do that, and then graduate, and off you go.
yeah. Yeah, and it's like I said, I don't think that I really feel like there are some staff members, some academic staff that are great people,
Mm.
man. They're great
Oh,
people.
for sure. Yeah.
No doubt about it. But when we have to take a look at the broader picture here and widen our perspective, then we have to understand that it's different these days because of the exposure
Yeah, the
to
exposure.
their online culture is right there at their
Yeah,
fingertips.
and who's guiding them? Their peers.
Exactly.
Most of the time, the number
Their
of
peers
hours.
online,
Yeah,
right? Their peers online because it's not the neighbor anymore.
yeah.
Because no kids, how often do you see kids going out
Mm.
to play anymore? Right? They're going online to
Yeah,
play.
before it used to be just your classmates and neighbors. That's it. And
Yeah.
your parents. You
Yeah.
get home, you get to school, go to school, get home. That's it.
Yeah.
Now you get engaged with the whole world, even at a young age. You're now posting on TikTok.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a at least the positive. What about on the negative side that you've read? Some of
Oh
the
yeah.
or disadvantages, not necessarily negative, but
Yeah. Let's go over some of those so that we don't have a totally biased
mm,
thing here. Totally biased discussion. Let me bring some of those up.
maybe some another five perhaps.
Yeah. So one of those we discussed already, which I guess is the more common one, which is about the socialization opportunities.
Mm.
So I think we can go past that one. That
Oh,
was
yeah,
that was
yeah.
one of them.
Okay.
Another one is the dependency on parental resources and expertise.
Okay.
So the point here is the effectiveness of homeschooling heavily depends on the parents' educational background,
Mm,
time availability, and
yeah.
financial resources.
Yeah, and we also touched a bit on that with the dedication that one
Yeah,
needs to have,
definitely.
or even yeah, your stock knowledge. It matters,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, totally, totally.
I mean, I'm terrible at math or arithmetic, so it's gonna be hard for me to be her tutor for that. So I'm gonna need AI for that to at
Yeah.
least show me the solution, the equation, and
Oh,
explain
totally,
it to me.
totally. Yeah. I'll just finish this, and then I'll make a comment about
Okay.
that. Not all parents are equipped to teach every subject effectively,
Mhm.
especially at higher educational levels. And then the comparison is here. Traditional schools offer access to specialized educators and resources across a wide range of subjects,
Yeah, that one's very important for me.
ensuring a more comprehensive education that may be
Mm.
difficult to replicate at home.
Okay.
Okay. I think that's a good point.
Yeah. Really is.
Um,
In a big way, that's what you're paying for
yeah,
or going to school for in a public.
definitely.
Yeah.
That's what we would expect to pay for, right?
Mm.
Is to
I mean,
have
these people spent a big chunk of their lives
yeah,
studying and
a whole
getting a degree,
degree.
a whole degree.
Yeah. Some go to their master's level,
Yeah.
right? To become educators. And so the discussion we're having today is definitely not to take anything away from the quality of education.
Mm.
And I totally agree that there are subjects that I'm not going to be able to teach.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with that. And I'm not saying like I'm going to use Chat GPT to teach me
Mm.
about chemistry and so that I can teach it to my kid. Like I was terrible in that class. Like
And it doesn't
I
have to be experts in chemistry, just
no,
the
no.
basic of it, it should be enough. Even in high school or in college, to
Yeah.
me, it doesn't, you don't have to be an
No, no,
expert
no.
in a
No.
particular subject, just enough.
Yeah. Once you know where you want to specialize, then of course,
Then
maybe you need to dive deeper into that subject.
yeah.
But just to get the basics, yeah. I don't think I can teach calculus, at least not at this point in my life. Maybe I'll
Yeah.
end up learning it, maybe not.
My nephew's way better than me at math.
Oh,
Even.
sure. Yeah, 100%. There are definitely kids way younger than me that are
Yeah.
better at math, 100%. So I'm not downplaying the specialization of some of these
Educators.
teachers,
Yeah.
these educators. And I'm not trying to compare educators to, Chat GPT lessons. I think that's
Mm.
a disservice.
Yeah. Yeah. An unfair comparison.
Unfair
Yeah.
comparison. Yeah, totally. Um, again, it's the system that I'm not happy with, and
Mm.
I think these great educators are stuck also within this machine, the system that is
Yeah.
failing us, that's failing our kids.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately. Um, I believe that if there were a different system in place, that these educators who could be providing higher quality education, that would be awesome. Like if it was enforced by the government that you only could have, you know, 10 to 15 students maximum per every two teachers,
Mm.
like damn, you'd have some high quality educators. Like you'd have rock solid education, man. That'd probably be way better. But that's not how it is, dude. Like that's just not the reality.
Mm.
The reality is you have double that per two teachers, right?
Mm.
And some are even worse, right? Some teachers are in the public schools teaching at 6 in the morning. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So again, it's from the top down. If we had a different system in place, then we probably wouldn't be having this conversation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But
Just go on with the system.
yeah, if it was like that, man,
Yeah.
I'd be like, great.
The reason why we have doubts is exactly because of that, right?
Yeah,
We have doubts.
yeah. And it's not because of the educators.
Yeah, yeah,
Totally
yeah,
not.
yeah. Respect to our
And
teachers.
I've listened to master's degree educators online
Mm.
talking about this topic, and even they have said, the ones that I've listened to were like, yes, the system needs to be improved. It
Mm.
needs to be updated.
Mm.
Okay, so I think we can all agree that that needs to happen.
Mm.
Okay, with the onset of AI tutors, I mean, just look at Elon Musk is creating his own school so that he can better cater to the innovators of tomorrow, right? Because just like what we're talking about, the current system does not provide that. My wife is also critical of this topic, and she's like, well, what about all these professionals? What about all these lawyers?
Mm.
I'm like, yeah, I'm not saying you can't succeed in the system,
Mm.
but there are other ways to go about it.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying this is the absolute answer, but maybe it's the answer for our child.
Yeah.
Maybe for those people, they did great. They're great with exams,
Mhm.
right? And that's a real thing. Like
Mm.
there are people who specifically can do very well in exams
Mm.
compared to other kids who cannot, or other people that cannot.
Mm.
And that's a real thing. So yes, I'm not here to say you can't produce working professionals because obviously they're all around us, going through this system that we're speaking against right
Yeah.
now. And so I'm not taking anything away from these people who are able to do it. I'm saying that there are other options. There are maybe ways more specific to the way our child learns, that she can explore her own interests much sooner in her life.
Yeah.
Why should we wait until 12th grade, and then that's the time we ask her, oh, so what do you want to
Mm.
do
You wanna
for
be-
the rest of your life? Like, that's even a ridiculous question to ask, someone who
Yeah.
just graduated high school in the first
Yeah.
place, who spent 12 years not being able to think for themselves, right? And so this is this is again, I'm going on a rant here, but this is the thing. I'm not trying to take away anything from the educators. They do. There are some that are great at their job. I've had great educators. Like, I remember my experience in college. I went to a tech school. The tech teachers sucked at their job because they took them from the field and they said, teach these college kids. And you can't just translate your experience and expect to be able to translate that in a classroom. Like, some of them literally quit after like a week because we like, my class was like complaining and giving the guy a hard time because he sucked so bad at his job.
Man.
It was that bad.
Mm.
But the English teachers were excellent. For whatever reason, this school had this tech school, excellent English teachers. Some of the techs, in the IT department, man, they were shit, man. They were shit. So, you get into situations like that. Um, why not allow our kids to explore their interests much early on? And like some of the, like I mentioned earlier, some of these kids become masters of their craft as a teenager.
Yeah.
Why not allow that opportunity? Maybe not necessarily. If my kid says, I'd rather just go back to school and go into the classroom and have a 12-hour work day, school shift, I'm like, okay, I'll try to support you in any way I can in that. Like, I'm not, gonna force her to go to homeschool, but um, yeah, I kind of went on a rant there, and
No, it's okay.
yeah. So in
But,
terms
but at
of
least, yeah. But at least, right, when let's say how beneficial it would be, like you're spending time together. I mean, the crux of it, and at the same time, you're learning from each other. You're learning from your child by spending time, and then all these years that they're gonna do that. At the end of the day, you're gonna be at least glad. uh, Success maybe or may not come. Depends on our definition of success.
yeah,
Society
definitely,
society has a definition of
yeah,
success. Yeah, she's a
100%,
successful
100%
child.
agree that.
She made it, or she's working at a corporate world, or an entrepreneur. But then if we can just stick to our mission, or our whatever our vision is for our child, then I think that would be pretty successful if they're in line with that vision that we have in the first place.
Yeah.
So for me, if I'll be given that grace to achieve that, then for me that would be a success.
Mhm.
Which is the vision is to be in line with where I'm trying to take her in
Yeah.
this reality. So yeah, that's a good for me, not such a bad deal, even if we end up losing opportunities in terms of enriching ourselves with
Mhm.
resources or riches. Doesn't really matter. I mean, yeah, we'll make things better or easier, more money,
I think
less problems.
I think it's gonna be a trade-off, right? Like,
Yeah, that's good. Definitely going to be a trade-off.
the parent will have, and the student will have to consider, for these specialized educators, what are the pros and cons of my kid being exposed to those people?
Mm.
And that's not to say that you can't still
Yeah, expose
expose
them. You expose it.
because you have face-to-face tutoring.
Yeah.
It's still a possibility in homeschooling.
Yeah.
Just because you homeschool doesn't mean you can't go to the nearest tutor. I mean, these are basically freelancers.
Yeah.
The tutors.
Yeah.
You can still get high level educators to teach your kid math in homeschooling. Actually, we were having a conversation with the mother in the rock in the climbing gym,
Mm.
because she was talking about she has contacted some local tutors
Mm.
so that her kids can get tutoring for the subjects that she can
Okay.
no longer, or she no
Yeah.
longer wants to teach, or no longer can teach. I'm not really sure which one it is,
Oh.
but she is offering to do a group tutor
Yeah. And it
session.
would even be cheaper, I guess, if
Yeah,
there's more of you.
definitely. In
Uh,
in the US, they call that co-op.
Yeah. So it's
Um,
workable, right?
yeah,
As long
you
as you
can.
find ways.
Yeah, totally,
Mm.
dude. Like the system that other people will develop in their homeschool environment is great, because
Mm.
they basically create mini schools.
Yeah.
There's even I remember watching this video someplace in I don't know if it was Colorado
Mm.
or Nevada or something like that, but it was is a abandoned school because it closed down because of COVID. And then the local community were there were so many of them doing homeschooling. They gathered in the abandoned school and basically created their own school.
Mm.
Their own homeschooling school. You know what I mean? So the
Yeah.
parents get together. Some of them are educators by background, some of them are not, but they teach the kids outdoor activity, outdoor skills,
Mm.
how to make things, how to some of them might hunt, so they teach them bow and arrow,
Mm. Nice.
or how to fix vehicles,
Yeah.
right? Like, so they still get great things to do,
Mm.
like activities, education, they learn,
Mm.
right? They they can they can still provide that, and then that's a wonderful thing to be able to know that it's happening out there, that
Yeah.
basically they're empowering the community to take the education into their own hands
Yeah.
and their own
That
responsibilities.
should be the way forward, I think.
Yeah,
Right?
man,
I mean,
I really think that's a great
yeah,
thing.
it's like a community-based
Yep,
system
totally.
where each and everyone cooperates with the welfare of the
Yes,
education
yes.
individually. Yes, start from the house, from at home, and then you interact with each other towards a certain goal where we're trying to enrich not just ourselves but the community
Hmm.
even. I mean, that
Yeah.
for me that is probably the only way forward in this
Yeah.
modern world that we're living in, because it's totally destructive the way we're engaging our environment our society. So yeah, I don't know though. For now, yeah, I'm convinced personally in that direction. The only problem is that yeah, there are so many questions yet, not just for me even, but even for my wife. She's not convinced
Yeah.
for now, but I think we're in the same boat in that.
Yeah.
It's a communication
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So I hope we can at least, yeah, through this discussion, explore the possibility of it and actually do it, maybe.
Yeah. So the point here about it's going to be difficult to replicate some of these comprehensive lessons at home. I think that's where the argument against that is that the homeschool setting can also provide things that the traditional classroom
Yeah.
cannot.
Yeah.
They cannot absolutely. The teacher with the work capacity that they have with the number of students cannot study your kid.
Mm.
They don't care what kind of a learner your kid is, because they have a schedule. They have 30 plus kids to get through in a lesson. They have to grade them, they have to exam them, they have to quiz them, right? They have to make them memorize this. I don't care how you learn it or how long, but we have a quiz next week. You need to take that quiz. And if
Mm.
you don't get it by next week, you fail that
Yeah.
quiz.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's the thing. So yeah, I agree that there are things that I'm not going to be able to replicate at home, but there are things that they also cannot provide, right? In a homeschool setting.
Yeah.
So
And then
again,
when they fail, it's gonna take a lot of time to compensate for that
oh yeah,
failure. Like you're
yeah,
gonna have to study more, and
yeah,
then
yeah.
again, it's
The
another
pressure, man.
distraction from the
The
vision that
the actual learning,
yeah,
right? The actual experience of learning, because you're
yeah.
so busy trying to memorize shit. Anyway, let's go on to another one.
Yeah,
So
another one.
another one is challenges in measuring and certifying learning. Okay, so this is interesting too. So the point here is Homeschooling may lack standardized testing and assessments that help gauge a student's progress against educational standards. This can make it difficult to assess the student's academic level and may complicate the process of applying to higher education institutes.
Just
Then
one way of saying that you're not gonna be a good fit to the machine
yeah, yeah,
in the future. If you
yeah,
don't, if you don't,
yeah. Yeah. So then again, totally, man. The comparison then is traditional education systems have well-established metrics for assessing student progress and achievements, which are widely recognized by colleges and universities. Okay. So interesting point.
Hmm.
You wanna comment on that?
I don't know. Good.
Okay, so um this is some information that I think is interesting on that point. And if you're thinking long term, which of course I'm considering, not just next school season, I'm hoping that our child chooses to do this for the rest of her academic years. And even going into college, that's this is an interesting point because the fear would be like, oh, you can't get a proper education in homeschooling. How are you going to get into college,
Mm.
right? Like that's a legitimate concern
Yeah.
as a parent. Because if you get to the point where your kid now has an interest, let's say, to pursue a higher learning, then how are they going to get into college with homeschooling or unschooling? And there's a couple points on that just off the top of my head before I get into the actual data. Um, the homeschool providers here in the Philippines actually go by the DepEd curriculum. So
Okay.
again, like I mentioned before, they still have to abide by those
The
standards.
standards.
So
Okay.
even though we, as the homeschool provider, you don't have to give them a quiz every week, you still have to take the quarterly exam.
Okay.
Okay, so that's and you might say, yeah, but depending on the school provider, it's basically up to the family to give the grade. So, um, I'm not interested in cheating my kid into through their education.
Mhm.
The whole point for me to study my kid and then to just like cheat and
Yeah.
submit a grade that's not
Yeah.
true to
That will be
their level.
counterproductive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's what the hell is the point of that?
Yeah.
I don't understand why anyone would make the effort to go through and because it's a bigger effort to homeschool your kid as a parent. Dude, it's not like, oh, it's so easy. You're just gonna sit around and your kid's gonna do online learning and you get to do whatever you want as a
Yeah.
parent. Like that's nonsense.
Yeah.
If
Even just imagining it, like, how do I grade this?
yeah, exactly, right?
Okay, should I give her the answer just so that just get through with this particular
Yeah, yeah.
subject? Or we're not going to stop unless we have fully absorbed that. But what I mean by fully absorbed is that not just memorizing it, but at least,
Really learn it.
yeah, really learn or value
Yeah.
the lesson in front. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good point.
So uh what was I saying about that?
Oh, the what was that again?
I just totally lost that. About
Yeah,
the abiding by the DepEd
yep, there you
curriculum.
go. Yeah.
Okay, so you can sign up with there's like a Homeschool Global is one of the providers,
Mm,
and you still um take the exam, the quarterly exams.
mm.
There's another one, Homeschool Pilipinas, same thing. You still have Filipino to language that you have to
Okay,
do, right?
you can.
Like you still have to do those things.
Yeah.
Um, so it's not like you have absolutely no idea. If you decide to unschool and go completely off the grid in terms of like education, then yeah, that's probably different. You have a tougher way to gauge your
Mm,
education. Um, I don't know about here, but in the US they have something called the GED,
mm,
right? The GED basically is just an exam and allows you to have the standardized testing to get
mm,
into a college,
yeah.
right? So instead of going through the school system, you can just take the GED, and I'm not sure at like how young, what's the minimum age, but you can basically take that and then get into college.
That's how they gauge you.
Yeah.
So, all right.
You don't need a diploma from a high school to say like, oh yeah, you graduated from this high school, so now you can apply to a college. No, you can absolutely homeschool in the US, get a GED, and still go to college. Okay. Here I'm not completely knowledgeable about that option yet. I'm not sure if that's possible, but through the online providers, you can obviously get the DepEd accreditation,
Okay.
right? And then apply.
So at least it should be official.
Yeah.
The results.
It's
And
as official as going to a high school.
yeah. Okay.
It's
That's
just
good
that
to know.
maybe you don't get a ceremony.
Yeah. I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
Yes.
totally, dude. I'm okay. I'm totally fine with that. Okay.
Every day is a ceremony for me.
Um, so there is interesting data out there to indicate how homeschoolers do compared to the traditional classroom setting. So there's a few points here. So academic performance. So research consistently shows that homeschooled students often achieve higher standardized test scores compared to their peers in public schools.
Whoa.
For instance, the National Home Education Research Institute reports that on average, homeschooled students score above the 80th percentile on standardized academic achievement tests, while public school students average around the 50th percentile. And this is, of course, based not in the Philippines. So just to make it clear that what we're talking
at
about.
least there's data.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
data.
Yeah. Back it up.
Okay. So there you go. So here, another point is college admissions. Okay.
I've
So
heard about that one.
yeah. So I was actually curious about this.
Yeah.
So the homeschoolers are generally well prepared for college, and many top universities
Prefer.
including those in the Ivy League, actively
Yeah.
recruit homeschooled students.
Yeah. Actively recruit.
Actively.
There you go,
Yes.
people. That's the key word.
Yes.
Actively recruit.
Yep. Studies and surveys such as those conducted by the National Home Education Research Institute, which we mentioned in the last point, have noted that homeschooled students tend to do well in college, both academically and in terms of adaptation to college environment, to the college environment. For example, a study by Dr. Michael Kogan at the University of St. Thomas found that homeschooled students had higher first-year GPAs and higher graduation rates than their non-homeschooled counterparts. So there you go. Like, and there's a side note I wanted to talk about that study. So the study referenced, let me see here. That was okay. So the conducted by Michael Kogan at the University of St. Thomas. This study found that homeschooled students had higher first-year GPAs. Okay, let's see. So, oh yeah, here we go. It focused on homeschooled students attending a medium-sized doctoral institution in the Midwest. Just as to give some details about that study, it was conducted over a span that included data from 2004 to 2009. The study encompassed a comprehensive analysis of homeschooled students' academic outcomes compared to their traditionally educated peers, looking at metrics such as ACT scores, grade point averages, and graduation rates. Okay, so just to give some context that it's not just like a one-year study or some shit like that.
Did you show her the data?
Huh?
Did you show her the data?
No. Did I show the wife the data? Dude, she doesn't give a shit about the data, dude. I can tell you about the, I can tell you straight up, she doesn't give a shit about the data.
Oh man.
Yeah,
Anyway.
that's well, maybe we have some time for that. Oh, it's already fucking 12:30, dude.
I probably get the same answer. Screw the data. I'm going with intuition.
I think that's it's more fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
Lack of confidence, you know, in something that's when you have to worry about criticism, and you know, we're talking about being the counterculture, I think that's not a comfortable place to be as a parent,
Definitely.
to be seen as someone who's not
Mm.
going along with what everyone else is doing. Like, why
And it's
are you?
certainly not the position that we would like to be. I mean, it's uncomfortable, right? When you're in
Absolutely.
that position,
Absolutely.
it's something that you have to confront.
Yeah.
And I hate confrontation.
And you have to deal with people's criticism.
Yeah.
And if you're the type of person who doesn't do very well with criticism, then that could be an issue, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm expecting this not to be a smooth transition in terms of the wife
Mm.
being I think it's going to take a while, but I think once she sees how it works, then that it is
Mm.
working, because I'm confident that it is going to work, um, then I help us to go to,
Yeah.
but I think for now it's going to be a lot of resistance.
Yeah. But maybe I think the fair, way would be to give us the opportunity to at least try.
Yes, yes. That's
Just
kind of
just
like
yeah.
that's my stance on it right now.
Yeah.
Like, even to our daughter, where it's like she's kind of favoring it,
Mm.
and like I'm trying to be as the least like I'm not trying to be manipulative at all. Like,
Mm.
I could easily be like, if you homeschool, we'll go to Disneyland,
Yeah.
right? Like, I could easily do that,
Yeah.
because I could actually justify the cost,
Mm.
and tell I could break down the numbers. Like,
Mm.
look, we can afford to go to Hong Kong and go to Disneyland, because
Mm.
we save 2,000 pesos a week by not bringing you to the school every day,
Yeah.
or we don't have to pay this insane amount of tuition.
Transportation,
Yeah,
lunch.
I could totally justify it and be 100% honest that we could afford something like that. But
Mm.
I'm not doing that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm definitely not doing that. So I'm just presenting the option. I'm trying to educate the daughter and what this actually means.
Mm.
I'm being very clear about it. You are not going to sit around and watch TV all day.
Okay.
I say that every time we talk about this topic.
Yeah, with conviction.
With conviction. If you think you're just going to sit around and watch on your tablet, on TV all day, that is not going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tell her that repeatedly. So it's very clear, and I definitely intend to stick to that and implement that.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, that's a tough thing to deal with, another person's self-doubt,
Yeah.
because initially the wife was very excited about it when we first had that conversation with the other mother, who was telling us about it
Okay.
in the climbing gym. And that's what initially got me excited, because she was excited. I was reading these books.
Mm.
The wife got excited, and so I was like, yeah, let's do this. This sounds like the fucking thing to do. And then school event happens,
Uh,
and then I'm not saying that it's because school is a status symbol, but it's something that parents get to post online and get recognized
yeah,
for,
especially
right?
when your kid gets like starts racking awards.
Yeah. Or just just gets recognition,
Yeah.
right? From other
Mhm.
people, like, oh, that's so awesome that your kid did this or that.
Mm.
And now the parents get recognition. Oh, you guys are great that you're doing this or that. And now there's a fear that that's gonna go away,
Mm.
right? That the parent is no longer going to get recognition for their kid, because they're no longer in the traditional classroom setting. And that's understandable, because that's how we grew up,
Yeah,
right?
it's funny that we call it traditional now. The traditional way
Yeah.
was homeschooling.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
That is.
yeah, that was it way before
That was it. Yeah.
all of this, and now we call it traditional. I mean, this
Yeah.
system that
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
kind of it's kind of funny,
Yeah.
but anyway, yeah.
That's the thing about culture, right? Culture is not necessarily just how culture is what we all accept as
Mm.
to be normal, right?
Yeah.
It's culture for it's culture for the top diseases here to be like all lifestyle diseases. Like, that's the culture here.
Yeah.
That's a culture. We just get heart disease and all that kind of bullshit. So it's just an acceptance as a society, what we feel is normal or tradition. Like, that's our culture, right? That's all bullshit, man. Like, we need to be the counterculture. Like, this is what I'm saying. Like,
Mm.
this is a call to action to all parents out there. Consider the counterculture, because it's just what we accept is the truth or what is normal, right?
Mm.
And what is normal? Let's take a look at the global statistics of mental health problems,
Yeah,
right?
that is,
Like
yeah.
that, why is that considered normal? Like
Yeah.
there has to be something that needs to change.
Yeah.
And I think this is the fundamental change that needs to happen.
Yeah.
Look at the efforts being put forward by Elon Musk. He knows and he's like, yeah, let's do that. Let's do something else
Mm.
that encourages my kid to think for themselves and be an entrepreneur. Like that's awesome.
Mm.
That's counterculture, man.
Yeah.
In action, right? We should take lessons from that. Maybe we can't open our own online AI tutor, but we should take a lesson from that, that there is someone that high up in society who's that rich, who's still saying the same things that we are today, that there's something wrong with the system.
Yeah.
So parents, we need to consider being the counterculture.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. Homeschooling. Maybe it's the way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like you said, we learn on the farms, then comes along some society telling us that we're not educated because we can't write or read.
Yeah.
But we understood how to grow
Yeah.
food.
Some of the most difficult activities of all time. Highly underlooked.
And-
I mean, growing your own food, that was the way before.
And look at the topics that we're talking about in a global crisis. Our
Mhm.
food system is totally fucked
Fucked.
because nobody knows how to grow shit anymore.
Yeah, the moment all this goes away, we're all fucked. That's it. I'm gonna die. I know a little bit about planting, but not
Yeah.
barely
Barely
enough
anything.
to survive
Yeah.
in a setting
Good
where
luck.
good luck with that. Yeah.
Good luck with your higher learning education.
Yeah,
your
good luck with my
bachelor's
master's degree.
Fuck shit. Good luck
It's
with that.
worthless.
Yeah, you gonna eat that degree? Fuck. That's the
Yeah.
thing, man. That's
Before, yeah, planting and values. Family values was especially in the traditional. I mean, in our religion, the old Catholics, the way they used to do it was like that. They pray all day. They emphasized family. They emphasized community. They had their own system of exchange. They had their own system of distribution within a small community. That was how they survived.
Yep.
And each and every one had specific functions and it specializes in something, and they all communicated and worked with each other, and that was how they survived for thousands of years.
Yeah.
Or in our case, and now if this breaks down, most of us,
Yeah, we're disconnected from our neighbors.
yeah,
We don't,
yeah.
we don't know how to grow anything. And this is here, we're on the farms. Here comes our overlords telling us that we're stupid
Yeah.
because, we're not in this education system. And that's one thing, as we'll come to a close here. But probably the last good thing to talk about that we're touching on here is the culture of the status of school. I think when we have overlords telling us that we're stupid because we can't read and write, but we know how to grow the fucking food that these people
Mhm.
are going to feed themselves with. Who's the stupid one now? Look at us. We're overeducated and we don't know how to grow our own food.
Yeah, we have all the information available, but still fundamental.
We can't survive.
Yeah.
So who's stupid now? They took us away from the farms, put us in these schools, told us that we need to get professional jobs and do this rat race.
Yeah, greedy corporations and shit.
Yeah, and make the corporation millions. And somehow we were stupid back then, right? Now somehow we're so smart, but we rely on this very fragile food system where if
Yeah.
these corporations decide to just not deliver our food,
Yeah, I doubt it though.
what the fuck are we're
we
gonna
may be
starve?
more intelligent in terms of having access to information and all that, or even or our perception of reality. But I doubt that we have more wisdom than our ancestors.
No way.
And are way
No
behind
way.
them in terms of wisdom.
Yeah. Yeah. That's probably a whole nother podcast. in
Yeah,
itself.
a whole other. We went for like more than 2 hours,
Dude,
man.
yeah. I didn't realize it was already
Yeah.
past.
That was a good. That
past
was a
12.
good. Feels different when we're sober.
Yeah. Yeah, the silver line.
We only went off the rails a couple of times.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I didn't even go off on the DepEd. So just real quick, people, just consider this. The DepEd cannot even figure out when our school break should be.
Yes.
Do I need to say more? Do I need
Yeah.
to say more than that? And these are the people that we're relying on for our
Yep.
kids' education system.
It's time to rely on ourselves and to God.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
just me.
Definitely not the DepEd.
Yeah.
So let's close it out.
Yeah.
In closing,
Go for it.
as we explore the vibrant landscape of educational options, let us be mindful of the pitfalls of an achievement by proxy distortion that can be that can overshadow the true essence of learning. Education should be a journey of discovery, not merely a race to gather accolades that serve as a mirror for parental aspirations. Homeschooling offers a unique opportunity to step away from this cultural norm, focusing instead on nurturing well rounded individuals who are equipped to face the challenges of tomorrow with confidence and creativity. I urge all parents to consider the transformative potential of homeschooling, not just as an educational choice, but as a profound way to connect with and support your child's true personal development. Let us champion an let us champion an education that values the individual, fosters genuine learning, and builds the skills needed for a fulfilling, independent future. Take this step towards intentional parenting, away from societal pressures and towards a more authentic, rewarding educational experience for your family. Let's educate not just for the next test, but for the lifelong journey of growth and understanding.
Amen to that. Beautiful. Well, Papa Ben, it's been a pleasure.
Thank
I
you,
know
Papa
when we
Lloyd.
had a good, when it's a good conversation when you don't even know what time or how many hours passed
An
by.
hour has passed. Yeah, man. Thank
So
you.
yeah, and thanks for doing your homework. I really learned a lot, and
Yeah, I learned a lot too.
yeah, it gave at least when I'm gonna consider it, will give me a lot of input in the future since we're gonna start summer school. So hopefully it works out, and hopefully it works out for you too.
Yeah,
And you get to decide. I'll pray for it.
thank you.
And
I appreciate it.
yeah, thank you all people for listening and tuning in. Again, this is Papa Loy,
Papa Ben.
and this is Tatay Time. And thanks again. God bless you all, and peace be with you all. Thank you. Yeah, that's pretty good.